Twitch on the podcast by me, Glass Half Dead, called Vantage Point. Yes, we've gone live. That's why I was talking so slowly to make sure it actually worked.
I
Right,
know how that goes.
let me read my intro. Okay. Welcome to Vantage Point, the place for me, Glass Half Dead, to talk about the subjects I want to talk about without having to care about my YouTube channel analytics. So expect some heavily rambling content as I turn the Conceal order on what I want to talk about to an Engage order. Today I'm joined by Oodsicle, who is wearing a classic DD3CP 7 points is balanced t-shirt, merch that is still technically available, although no longer relevant if it ever was relevant, of course.
That's the best kind of available. Technically available.
Technically available, exactly. Hi, Oodsicle, how's it going?
Hi, it's going good. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
Glad to be talking. I like that intro. Gonna switch my Conceal order to an
Yeah,
Engage
right?
order. Keeping
Right?
it relevant. I like it. Yeah, using
Yeah,
the new
it's
lingo.
called,
Gotta get. Yeah.
it's called, the podcast is called Vantage Point. I'm using
Yeah.
lingo. I've thought this
Yeah.
through. I've commissioned
Yeah.
artwork that's coming soon. It's fine.
Yeah. You better just hope it's not a domino fielded Harlequin down there, or otherwise you can't. You know, the Vantage Point is worthless. So.
Well, otherwise I'll play the rule wrong on stream, and people will tell me about it, and that just drives engagement. So I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it works out that way when you're streaming.
Yeah, right.
The more
today...
people yell at you in chat, the better.
Oh, for sure. If only they would super chat me to tell me how wrong I am. Today I'm on a Diet Coke because it's really hot in England, and I have a fan going and a window open. So chat, hi, thanks for joining us. If you are hearing some excess noise from me, please let me know. Battle Brothers Tabletop says, is it officially a podcast? Yes, it is. Yes. Obviously I did Beerenid, now I'm doing Oodsicle. Later this week I'm doing the Strategic Advantage guys, and next week I'm doing Micromancer. I feel like I should stop saying I'm doing people, and I'm probably going to start saying I'm talking to them. But at the same time, I don't really want this to be anything particularly official and like structured. So I don't want to say I'm interviewing people, etc., because that's definitely not what I'm doing. I'm excited about Kill Team and I want to talk about it more. But obviously, like, on my channel, I can't just put out bad content that rambles for 2 hours. So yeah, Hobby Hero, I can do you anytime.
You can.
Oh no, I can. Sorry, yes, you're right, I can. But it would be a bad idea.
Probably not good for the algorithm or you know any of those other things out there.
Or my mental health. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just skip that completely.
No, definitely.
Oodsicle, who are you? Why am I talking to you?
I'm just a humble, member of the Kill Team community. I happen to have met and become good friends with Beerenid 40K, and that got me onto his podcast and some of his videos. Also, part of the reason I got into the competitive scene, meeting him and went up to BAO and did okay at BAO 2019. Mind you, it wasn't the hugest showing, but did okay there in my first tournament. Went to other tournaments here in the SoCal scene, and we happen to have a lot of big names here, so to speak. With there was multiple podcast groups down here, and we have like some tournament winners and Emmanuel and Alex Admech and Beerenid's down here. So we have a lot of people like that. And then I got involved in over the pandemic in the tabletop simulator scene, working through the Command Point Discord, and now through my own Discord called the Kill Zone, running TTS tournaments. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Of course, I know you for the sole reason that you let me stay in your place over LVO. Everything else is completely secondary to me. No, but you've just started that Discord now, right? And it's...
we just started it. Yeah, the Command Point guys have some tournament plans of their own, and so they wanted the third party stuff moved, so we jumped over to another Discord. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hey, I assume that you are in my stream chat right now. Do you want to drop a link to the Discord in there?
Oh,
if
yeah, I
that's
can do that.
doable. I know sometimes it can be difficult.
I don't know. It depends on how you have your stuff set. If you have it set
terribly.
to like not allow people to do
links. You know what? I have never looked at my Twitch
we're about
settings.
To find out.
So I see it.
Yeah, it seems to have let me. It didn't kick it back. So
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
let's talk about Kill Team. That's why I'm here, because I'm hyped for the game. I basically haven't been able to play for the last 2 weeks. So, I want to talk
Ooh,
about it because I can't play.
okay.
Um,
Yeah.
been too busy. Been too busy.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
playing at the moment.
Yeah, we have a small tournament going on right now on the server that I wasn't initially playing in, but we had a few people with some snafus on their signups, so I
Okay.
ended up I ended up jumping in to fill in for one of the pods. So I've been playing Harlequins, and I've been having a real good time with that.
Okay.
Um, and I got to play in person the other day, which was nice, with some friends that I hadn't seen since before the pandemic.
Sweet.
Some people from the local scene, and that was a lot of fun. I played my Grey Knights. I've really been focused in on elite teams. Playing anything with less than 3 APL per model just feels
Yeah.
tough.
I feel you there.
Decision making wise, like I'm sure it's kind of like back when I used to play Tau in the first version of the game, and I got tired of it. It's just 16 models and moving them around. And I mean, obviously, there's not that many in the new version, but moving that many models, like thinking that far ahead, like all the measurements and stuff, it's a lot.
Hmm.
When you're working with the elite team, your decision making is a little bit easier because you can, run, shoot, dash into cover, or like run, activate something, then shoot or fight. Like you can just do multiple things, whereas otherwise you're having to split those things among more models.
Hmm.
So I've found, just for my personal learning of the game, that elite factions have been better for my mental health, but
Hmm.
or my understanding of the game. But yeah, I've been playing, I've been having a really good time. I enjoy the new version of the game. I think it plays really interestingly. There's like all the factions play kind of different. There's really the only generic tactic is tactical reroll. There is, like, bolter discipline, which
Yeah.
basically all the chaos or regular marine factions have some form of that, so it's
Hmm.
kind of the same, but it's still different. Yeah, a lot of things just play differently, and it's cool. I'm still learning. There's still gotcha moments.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you earlier, some of those gotcha moments are a lot more brutal in this new version, because it
Yeah.
doesn't end up with a single dice roll that's a 50-50 of your guy dying. It ends up with your guy being completely obliterated, and maybe two guys being completely obliterated. So
Sure. Yeah,
yeah,
as we were
but
just saying a little bit before, you just kind of gave some, I don't want to say intro games, but possibly the
yeah,
first time playing.
yeah,
And I mean, it's because you don't, oddly, everybody complained about the injury roll, and it was generally not the best mechanic, I suppose. It was very much a band aid patch. But yeah, it does mean that people could just be straight up punished for not understanding their orders and when to engage, when to conceal. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the conceal engage is a big thing. Terrain is a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's still. I even just yesterday, mind blown, right? I've been playing this game for weeks now, and it hasn't really affected anything because I've been playing Harlequins and I've been running Domino Field anyway, so you're not going to be able to shoot at me.
Yeah.
But like I thought the only difference between heavy and light terrain was if you were 2 inches or further away, then it had the obscurity rule or
Uh-huh.
whatever, right? I thought if you were up against a wall or up against a window or something that was counted as heavy terrain, that it essentially worked the same as light terrain. But that's not the case. So like if you're concealed behind heavy terrain, a vantage point does not make you visible.
That's correct. Yeah.
It's only for light terrain. But
Yeah.
I thought those walls operated the same as light terrain. But
Yeah.
I was playing it incorrectly. So like there were
Yes.
times where I used a tactic that I didn't even need to use because I could have just hidden behind heavy
100%.
terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think that's one of the big ones that, upon first reading, most people have missed, but actually completely changes the game. Like, until
oh
now,
yeah.
I thought that being like that advantage point was completely overpowered as far as anybody could tell. But now it's like, oh, I had just have to be next to a proper wall instead of a barricade. Right, that actually completely changes how most maps are going to play from now on. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was something I missed originally. Because if I'd
Yeah.
known, I'd have put it in my first ever like line of sight tutorial. Now it's going into one of my top 5 rules. You play incorrectly, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, for sure.
You got to
For
farm those
sure.
clicks, right? But that's the thing is that's a really good thing to know. It, like, totally changed the game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really changes the game. I mean, there's a lot of those little things too, like the specific Octarius terrain
Yeah.
that's the scramble terrain, like how that works, right? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't necessarily know that because that wasn't really a rule that people were looking at
Sure.
initially. Or like my buddy had opened his stuff, he hadn't even opened the Octarius box. Like he had opened the box to get the terrain out, but he
Yeah,
hadn't
sure.
even looked at the book because he wasn't playing either of those factions and didn't realize that there were special rules for that terrain. So that was something they learned. Other stuff is just okay. It's like any other game, right? Even an FPS or anything like that, like you play Counter-Strike or Dota or League of Legends, like you got to learn the other characters, know what their abilities are, know what the items do, know
Hmm.
what, you know,
Hmm.
there's a lot of stuff. So the learning curve is a little bit steeper, and then like I said, it's just a little bit more punishing, right?
Yeah.
So my buddy ran Necrons, and he had like his immortals all set up and like ready to go, and he chose his side and everything. And then I was playing my Grey Knights, and I just popped that tactic and played the mission and was super stealthy, and he wasn't able to shoot me,
Tide of
and he's like,
Shadows.
this
Yeah.
is, you know,
Nice.
and it's just like you got to just adjust and learn how to play the game. And I was trying to tell, you know, but you know, stuff like that. And then only in death does duty end was another one that was like
Yeah.
a punishing learning moment. Like,
Yes.
oh yeah, you did attack me and kill me, but now I become an unstoppable killing machine, and
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
wreck you on my activation, and there's not a damn thing you
Nope.
can do about it.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah, so stuff like that, definitely, which I think there were those moments in the first version of the game, and there are those moments in lots of other games. They're
Hmm.
just slightly more punishing in this version.
Sure.
So even in like those starting games, I was like, okay, I can roll this back and like we can try it. And they were like, no, 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 let's play it out. Just need to learn it, get punished by it, and then we'll move on, right? And it's better to do that when you're playing some friends for fun or playing in like this, you know, tournament on TTS where it's just for learning and stuff, rather than when you show up at SCO or LVO or something and then get destroyed by something you didn't know existed. So
For sure. So quickly over to chat. Cinia, that beautiful graphic you made for me is officially currently the thumbnail for my YouTube video when this gets uploaded to that. Thank you very much for doing that. That was very great picture of me you used there. But obviously I don't need a thumbnail for Twitch, so it's not here, but it is there on YouTube. Thank you for that. Yep, they're all agreeing. New kill team a lot bloodier. Zero Stride.
yeah.
Not quite what I had in mind, I believe is what I said, translate to complete pile of shit. Yeah, pretty much, I suppose. Somebody asked, does Conceal work against Vantage Point? That was obviously bouncing off what you said there. Conceal does work against Vantage Point, but only when you're behind heavy cover, not against light cover. Light cover essentially turns your Conceal order to an engage order, and that's the way it interacts. But heavy cover is not light cover.
Yeah.
People
And there are a
were
lot of
before just
tactics
focusing
in the
on the
game
way that it is
Yeah.
Conceal to engage as opposed to the cover that it is affected by. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was gonna say, and I mean, there are tactics that change that, but then there's also like Zero pointed out in chat. Sorry for cutting you off there, Glass. But yeah, is that
Cool.
you have to be 2 inches below the vantage point, or 2 inches higher on the vantage point. Like if it's 1 inch or below 2, it doesn't count as a vantage point. And then the other thing is you have to be at least 2 inches away, or if you're 2 inches away from the light terrain. If you're within 2 inches, then the light terrain doesn't even do anything.
Yep.
So if you get close to somebody, they don't even count for cover. And then, like I said, there's tactics like for Harlequins, which Zero, you must be stoked about that. Harlequins look really good. I'm enjoying the heck out of playing them, dude. They just, you dance around, you do all kinds of stuff. People can't shoot at you if you don't want them to. Like,
Yeah.
they've been a blast.
They've been a blast. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll talk about that in a moment because obviously I think that's a great place to start. What factions are we enjoying playing? But Overspanky asked, can stealth suits be targeted by indirect? Yeah, they can. Is there a reason they can't be? Is that like a pointed question? Yeah.
They have like an order where their like tactic is that they're like always count as concealed, but concealed wouldn't stop you from doing indirect.
Nope.
So I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, so indirect is one of the few ways you can get around them and still hit them, shoot at them without being within 2 inches of them. Sorry, I can't remember if it's 1 circle or 2 circle. So it's either 2 inches or 4 inches.
Yeah, camouflage field. Each time an enemy operative makes a shooting attack, unless it is within circle. So.
Oh yeah, okay, 2 inches. Cool. Yeah, stealth suits look super strong. I haven't actually faced off against them yet, but I'm terrified of when I do. Basically.
Yeah, I think the toughest thing about them is that they're 2 APL. So if you run, like, I mean, mind you, you'd never run 2 teams of them, but like if you run 2 teams of them, it feels kind of bad. But I guess that's the same as like something like the Tyranid Warriors, right? They're 2 APL as well, so
yes.
similar.
Yeah, I mean, the stealth suits definitely seem like if you get that shot on them, they're gonna die. But you have to get that shot on them.
Yeah.
Baron Krakos, have you guys tried DG or Drakari? I haven't played either. No, I've played against Death Guard. They were an interesting one. I don't know if my opponent was rolling hot, but that disgustingly resilient makes them so much more durable than I expected. Like, I kind of did the maths afterwards, and he was rolling averagely. Like, he was rolling about a third of his disgusting resilient saves, But damn, I was playing him just with infiltrators, but yeah,
All right,
it
well
was really good.
that's more on you playing infiltrators than on me
No,
playing
no, no,
Death Guard, I
infiltrators are
think.
top of it. It's fine.
But I've played Death Guard, and Death Guard was like one of the first. Was the first faction I tried. I played 2 games of them, and then I've played Drukhari 1 game, but that was like a really, really learning game. I think Drukhari are very cool. I think there's definitely. I mean, every team has play at the moment. Like there are some teams that are a little bit. I wouldn't say behind, but like not as OP tactics or strong stuff. But I'd say every team like has a place in the game right
Hmm.
now. Like depending on the mission, and the opponent. But there's nothing in this version that would be equal to Harlequins versus Grey Knights in the old version.
Sure.
For
Sure.
instance, like there's nothing that's that terrible.
Uh-huh.
Um, Crude even have some cool stuff going
Yeah.
on. Yeah, just I've played Death Guard. I liked it. I I was kind of upset. Like, okay, like they're on 3 defense dice like everybody else. They're slower because they're supposed to be more resilient.
Hmm.
Yes, they have disgustingly resilient, but that's an RNG thing, right? They don't become injured, which is pretty big for them. But that 4 movement, like it just, I don't know. It feels like they got punished more than they got rewarded. Death Guard.
Hmm.
Their gunner options aren't that great,
Yeah.
and they didn't get any of their like the plague sword for the leader.
Hmm.
It essentially is a power weapon. It's 4/6 damage, but it doesn't get the lethal 5. And
Okay.
then in Death Guard fashion, they didn't even give it like ceaseless to reroll ones or something like that,
Right.
which I thought would have been like a good translation of how their plague stuff worked in the past.
Yeah.
But they didn't get any of that kind of stuff. So um, they definitely are good. Some of their equipment is like tough, like the plague bell, the thing that allows them to move an extra circle that costs an AP. So like, if you're taking that, you're putting it on a guy, and then that guy is going to kind of be the slowest guy, and you have
Hmm.
to kind of keep them together to get that benefit. And maybe it helps you, you know. I think there was a tactic in the original kill team that allowed them to do like an extra move, but they couldn't charge or dash or whatever that turn.
Hmm.
And then in the new version, Necrons have something it's called like Ceaseless March or whatever it is, where they can do that, where they go from 4 to 6, but it can only be used for a normal move and a charge, and you can't dash during that turn. I would love a tactic like that for Death Guard to help get
Yeah.
them out onto the field quicker.
Hmm.
But they didn't get anything like that. So I think they're a good team. Disgusting resilient does make them tough. I would have been okay if they had an extra wound or two, so they weren't the same amount of wounds as all the other
Marines.
Marines.
Sure.
Yeah,
But they have
something
disgusting
like that.
resilient. I mean, that's
No,
essentially the same.
I know they do, but it's an RNG thing. So like
Yeah. Sure.
I just they eliminated a lot of other RNG in the game,
Hmm.
and then they kept that one, right. You know what I mean? Like there's no RNG on weapon damage, there's no RNG on a lot of other stuff, like,
Yeah.
and then they kept the RNG there. But I mean, when you're rolling that many dice, you definitely get more of them. So yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I haven't played Drukhari though. I can't really talk to them. I'm pretty terrified of just the Cabalite Warriors though. I think they're gonna have some crazy shooting. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
have 3 melter weapons on the board essentially. Like, yeah,
Oh, because of
the
the
blasters.
pistol and
Yeah,
the yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They made yeah, they can definitely do good. And the splinter rifle, right? Is that the heavy one? Is it the splinter
The
or
Splinter
the
Cannon,
splinter cannon?
or the Dark Lance. Yeah.
That thing has blast on it too, which is disgusting for the Drukhari. And
Not the
witches are
Splinter
really
Cannon,
strong in
but one one of them
strong in
does. Yeah.
melee too. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
so
yeah.
no, Drukhari is definitely good. They have some cool tactics too. Their tactics revolve a lot more around the witches than they do the Cabalites.
Hmm.
But they have some. I think Drukhari have some of uh, the most weapon options as far as they
Oh,
go. Like, sorry, equipment options. The EP
oh, right.
points.
Yeah.
They've got like all the different drugs for the witches, and then they've got like different options for the weapons. Like you can make, I think, the splinter cannon relentless, so you
Yeah,
can re-roll everything.
that's right.
They've got some really really good options in that regard.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what are we playing? What are you playing? What am I playing? Like, what's attracting you about teams at the moment? Just in a super general kind of sense.
Yeah. So, like I said, I started out with Death Guard, and I played a game of Drukhari. I played a game of Grey Knights, and I got completely blown off the board. But I did not understand how their tactic worked
Right.
or how
Yeah.
terrain worked and all that stuff at the time. What I've been playing since, I picked up Talons because I said the moment. I mean, I tried playing Custodes back in the first Command Point Invitational, and then I played them in Commanders, and I wanted to play them more than that, I liked the idea of that, super elite team. And then when I saw their data sheet come out, I was like, I'm gonna be a Talons of the Emperor main. Like that's gonna be my
Okay,
main. I want to play Custodes.
sure.
Now they, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I was playing them, and other people were playing around with them, and we discovered some really, really strong stuff that they have.
Yep,
The Demigods Tactic that allows you
yep,
to do one action out of activation,
yep.
which essentially, if you do the scouting phase 3-inch move, and then you do the Demigods 6-inch move, and then you do your regular activation, and you do an 8-inch charge, you essentially have a 17 to 18-inch charge
Mm-hmm.
turn one.
Sure.
Which can be pretty punishing. Also, if you take a bunch of spears and you shoot twice, you have a bunch of guys shooting bolters with, I think they have P1 on them. So if you crit, they go to AP1, and you're hitting on twos. So there's a lot of scary stuff that team can do with
Yep.
the Custodes. I think I would equate. I've been enjoying the Harlequins because the Harlequins feel like a kind of deeper version of that. Like you can do some really, really cool stuff with the Harlequins, but you have
Mm-hmm.
to kind of dance in and out with them. It's
Sure.
a more elegant option, so to
I
speak,
agree.
whereas like the Custodes are kind of like a bull in a china shop. Like you're just brute forcing it.
Yeah, brute force versus elegance. Yeah,
Yeah,
as you say.
yeah, is
Finesse.
kind
That's
of
the
how
word I
I've
was
been.
looking for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
finesse. There you
There
go.
you go.
Is how I've been feeling about it. What have you been playing?
Um, so as I said, I really haven't played in the last 2 weeks. I've been too busy at work, and then I went to somewhere over the weekend, so I just haven't been able to play really.
Okay.
I've got my teams originally that I built like whilst I was waiting for the game to come out, and I heard the early reviews. So I've got 5 infiltrators as like a marine team, which are going to become part of a full roster that I'm going to do, which is going to basically be a Death Watch roster, which is why I gave
Okay.
them Death Watch arms. I have
Nice.
Eldar, but man, I think Eldar. I don't think they're the team to begin with. I need to work on
Yeah.
my. I need to work on the core of the game before I start getting funky with Eldar. They die very quickly, and yeah, they're a bit above my skill ceiling at the moment. So I'll come back to them once I've mastered something, the core. Um,
Yeah.
I'm currently building up a Heretic Astartes team because there is a tournament this weekend. Bad Moon
Oh,
Cafe.
nice.
We're at 30 players so far. I think we're going to cap out at the
Oh,
full
heck yeah.
34, 36, whatever it is.
Awesome.
It's this Saturday. And I've got to decide what team to take. Currently leaning towards either Heretic Astartes or Demons. Don't know.
Okay.
Don't know. We'll see.
Those are both good options.
Yeah, for sure. I like Heretic Astartes because I believe that I just like playing kind of 5-6 Marines. It's super low, cognitive load. It's just 6 dudes, and you know what, man? 3 APL feels so good to play. Like I really
It
like
does.
playing 3 APL.
It
Everybody
does.
feels like they're making good choices. They're doing cool things. You're not as limited to move shoot or move action, which is how I feel the others
Mhm.
kind of play.
Yeah.
So I really like that. But also, I do think once we get towards, once I break through my I'm a beginner and I'm a noob, I don't know how to play the game phase, which is very much where I am at the moment, let's be clear. I think in
We all are.
reality, I think model count's going to be big. I think really the 10 plus models are where you're going to actually be like top tier competitive. I don't think apart from
We'll see.
Custodes. Apart from Custodes, ignore them. They're a different thing. I'm not talking about them. But I think that really, like, that mixture of 3 Marines with 8 cultists is where you actually get competitive. I don't think once we're at like the top tier 5 Marines is actually going to cut the mustard, if you will. I don't know if that's the
I
phrase, but
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know about cut the
oh, of
mustard, but
course,
I'm
of
fine with
course.
it. Cut the mustard. I mean, on the other side, right? Like Death Guard, I feel like I hate the Poxwalkers. They're
Okay.
so useless.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get any advantage from the icon. They don't get any advantage
Yeah.
from the bell. So they're always moving at 4. Yeah, you get to activate them twice at once, but they have a limit too on their brainless. So any of the actions on a normal
Yeah.
point, even if as tough as it is to get there with only 2 circle for a movement, you then can't even use your last activation to activate the point because it costs you an extra AP to do any kind of mission actions.
Mm-hmm.
So like the idea is you get them there turn 1 with a move dash, and then the next turn you just use both their APL to activate. But
Sure.
it's like I don't need 8 guys to do that. Like that seems kind of, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of, like I said, Death Guard. I just feel like their options kind of got kneecapped a little bit. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. I like the elite team thing. I know what you're saying. Like that's what I was saying too about as far as once I know the game better, I think I could take advantage of more models. But at the time, like it just feels way more efficient to use less models and have more activations. Um, We'll see. We'll see. I know
Yeah.
Micro. I mean, you're gonna have him on next week, so I don't want to
Hmm.
talk too much to it. But he's been
Yeah.
playing Gene Stealers,
Yeah.
and that's a team with more bodies, and he has been having a heck of a time with it.
Yeah.
They can take some crazy grenades. They have some like ability that allows their really good melee weapons to have relentless, which is like super strong. I've only caught a little bit of a few of his games, but he's been doing really well with them, and that's
Sure.
um, yeah. Uh, like I said, Harlequins are really good. Like you said, Eldar, I do think they're one of the teams, along with Admech, that
Hmm.
weren't the greatest coming out of the box.
Well, hold
I
on
think
now.
Admech.
I think Admech are really strong. What?
I mean, they've got okay. They have some really cool weapons and
Yeah.
some like good guys, but their tactics are some of the worst. Like they're
Okay.
supposed to be like their canticles now, but
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
nerf. If you use it to shoot well, then your melee guys suck for that
Mhm.
turn. If you use it to melee well, then your shooting guys take a hit. You have to take infiltrators or one of your tactical ploys, because they only get 2 tactical ploys. One of your
Mhm.
tactical ploys goes out the window, and the other one that's available for the leader is kind of garbage.
Right.
And then they have a guy that you can spend 4 EP to get this really cool thing, a data tether that gives you an extra CP every turn. You can hide this guy, get an extra CP, but all you're using it on is tactical rerolls because all
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
tactics
That's
are,
true.
BS. So it's like, and you already have a servo. You like the servo skulls are cool. They have cool elements, but I just don't think they're right there. But they're
Right.
gonna get their white dwarf
Yeah,
here
they're
pretty
getting
soon.
their
So
thing. I think it's in 10 days. I think like
the
it will be
17th, yeah,
in the 17th. It'll be in people's
yeah,
hands then. So
yep.
won't be relevant anymore how the current team plays, I
There
assume.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's poof. It's the game's in an interesting state right now. Nobody knows the whole game still. I don't think like in and out. People are still figuring it out. We're gonna get a new, we're gonna get the white dwarves. Then we're gonna
Hmm.
get a new box in what, November or October, whenever we get it.
It's just that
Um,
3 month window. Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
know when. Yeah.
So whenever we get it, and they might introduce whatever the new kill zone is, might come with like its own kind of new terrain feature, like the scramble feature that was
Yeah.
in Octarius, right? Or a new rule for like a vantage point or something like that, or a
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
generic tactic. Who knows? Um, it's in a way better place. I like it. Um, how have you felt? I mean, I guess I don't know. Were there any questions about factions or anything like that in the chat? I don't want to just skip over anything before we
Let's
jump into something
have
new.
a look at the chat. Something that I'm terrible at doing. I find
Yeah.
it a real struggle to talk to someone and read chat. It's generally people who agreeing that custodians are quite scary, Eldar kind of suck.
Yeah.
And then we're discussing mustard. So yeah, it's
Oh, there you
fair.
go. Yeah, I don't know that Brotherhood of Demigods is the issue. I would say I could see them doing something kind of like so how Chaos works, right? With your regular Chaos Marines, you get 6 guys because the leader is like a bonus guy added on, right?
Nope.
Or he's just part of it. Okay, it's 3 and 3 is what it is. 3 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the other ones are like just like Marines are just 5 or whatever. And
Yeah.
so for Death Guard, what they did was the leader gets added on. So it's 2 and 2,
Yeah.
but the leader gets added on, which makes it 5. I think they could do something like that and I mean, I don't want to, I'm not, who knows what's going to happen, right? But it's potential that they could do for Custodes where if you take that team, it's 1 guy, but if you can add a leader onto it, which would mean if you
Right.
took just Custodes, it would go back down to 3, which would drop them down to 12
Okay.
activations. So I don't know how good that would be, but I think it would make them a little less insane with 3 guys if you still
Mhm.
have like the good tactics and stuff. Because double shooting with 3 guys is still really strong, but it's not as strong as double shooting with 4 guys. 12 activations is still not terrible, but it's not Because I'm trying to think like Death Guard with 3 each and 5 guys is 15. So you'd be at 12, so that'd be less than Death Guard. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they got to do, but we'll probably see some changes to Custodes at some point. I don't think they're like the end of it all. I'm playing them today with my Harlequins, and I have a game plan going in, but we're playing escalating hostilities, which means by turn 3 and turn 4, I'm gonna have to be getting close to them, which is not something I want to do, and not how the Harlequins kind of play. So we'll see what I can do. I have a game plan. I think this is one of those map and missions where I think it's not the greatest matchup for anybody playing them, but I have played them myself. I understand what's going on. I have a plan going in, and we just got to see if it works out. Part of it relies on some initiative rolls too. So which not nearly as bad in the new version. I really like it. It can still be very difficult to lose initiative because there can be a key point on the map where like you were hoping for something to happen and then you don't get it to happen, or a guy who was on an engage order turn 1 that you really need to change to a conceal order, stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes against them. I don't think they're unstoppable beasts that everybody seems to think they are. I think people just still haven't figured out the game enough to know how to play them, and I do think that they are strong. And they just have so many options, right? Like, oh, I'm going to activate and do the mission while also brutalizing you with double shoot or fight and murder, and yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I said this last time. I suppose I'll say it again. I think anybody claiming to have figured the game out or have solved the meta or already know the top tier, S tier teams is obviously retarded. We don't need to really listen to them. This is all kind of,
Careful with that word. You're gonna get your YouTube channel. I don't know how it goes down in Britain. I'm just saying, careful there, Glass.
Come at me, bro.
That's a scary word here. I'm just saying.
We can go over to my political debate channel if you want and discuss use of that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm just, I was worried about anything spicy in my background, but okay. How have you felt about terrain over anything? Like,
how do you mean terrain over anything?
Like, just whether competitive, like, okay, asymmetrical, symmetrical, like, I just think symmetrical is like out the window. I think you made a video about that yesterday, but like, how have you felt, because you've played a lot in person. I've only played in person the other day. Setting up terrain felt like a nightmare. Like, it took me like a half an hour to feel like we had a balanced board.
Fair enough. Why?
There was, because I'm worried about vantage points. I'm worried about it being asymmetrical. I'm worried about defender, attacker, like all this kind of stuff. The amount of terrain. Where are people going to put their barricades? If I put if I set it up this way and somebody puts a barricade that completely blocks that lane, like, is that a good way to be designing? Have you felt anything about that? Do you know what terrain they're going to be using this weekend at your tournament? Is it going to be all Octarius terrain or?
No. So obviously, unlike TTS or perhaps Warhammer World, every real life tournament isn't going to use GW terrain. They're going to use third-party terrain. They're going to be using MDF terrain, or they're going to be using that kind of pre-painted stuff from GameMat.eu, which is what is going to be used at Bad Moon Cafe, where I'm playing.
I don't even know what GameMat.eu.
They're a company that do like pre-painted resin terrain. They're based in.
Are they a sponsor? Why are we giving them, time here?
Because everybody uses them. Weirdly, if they want to send me free stuff, that's fine. Oh, fair enough. So a lot of people in the EU use them because they're very canny when it comes to handing out their terrain for free. And if you're running a tournament, they will probably give you some very cheap terrain, whereas normally it costs quite a lot to get pre-painted,
absolutely.
So, because of that, they get used quite a lot.
Pre-painted resin terrain. All right, I'll have to take a look at this.
Yeah. So, all of their terrain is generally quite big, quite blocky. But honestly, I really like how it interacts with the new keywords, because in the old version, everything was what it was. Now you can say, hey, you know what? I don't like the verticality. That, not a vantage point. You can't go on it. Boom, problem solved. Or you can have not quite the right things you need and say, okay, well, you know what? That is a vantage point. That isn't. You can say, actually, I realize this doesn't make sense, but I'm making that huge tank container. That's light,
That's
because
light.
you know what? Because I don't have access to the actual thing that I need. So I
Yeah.
actually have really taken to that. It's odd because obviously I was starting to learn 40k, and it's essentially the same system. You pick
Yeah, you
piece of terrain, and you say this is now this. These are the keywords it holds. And
yeah.
I bounced off of terrain so hard in 40k. I find it very confusing. I don't like it. I'm scared of it. I
Yeah,
still
it's
don't
like
fully understand it.
if your models are in it, it counts as one thing, or if they're like behind it, it counts as
Yeah,
like
it has
another or
different
stuff like that.
effects. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it is in bolt action too. When I played a
Okay.
game of bolt action with my buddy, it like I was like, okay, so wait, so now that my guys are in the forest, it acts differently than when they were like when they were behind the forest, you couldn't shoot at them. Now that they're in the forest, they're somehow revealed, but
Yeah, yeah.
like it
Like they
had
can
different.
shoot
Yeah,
out, you can't shoot in, or they can't shoot out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's all kinds of. It's like any game, you got to learn it and figure
Yeah,
it out.
yeah.
And that's like I said, I just learned that difference about heavy and
Yeah.
light terrain. Yeah, no, I like that you can make anything whatever you want it to be. Um, I know a big thing Bjorn was talking about was like we got to look at that recommended board, which we have
Mhm.
on TTS, which is pretty nice.
Yep.
See like kind of cut it up into quadrants, see how many heavy there are, how many light there are, and then like kind of use that as a guideline.
Yeah.
Um, but also like Octarius comes with right. It comes with the 4 like stands and then the oil derrick, so that's
Yep.
5 pieces of heavy terrain.
Yep.
But knowing how heavy terrain works, I mean, maybe is that too much heavy terrain? I don't know. And then like the light
Yeah.
stuff too, they have the light barricades. You have your barricades, and then you have the light traversable, and then you have the what do you call it? The like scramble terrain, right?
Yep.
That's a lot of light terrain on a board too.
Yeah.
So things like Domino Field or things like the Grey Knight one where you can hide behind light terrain
Yeah. Yeah.
become like really strong. So now all of a sudden, like, why even have vantage points if they're like I mean, mind you, I have to use that tactic to avoid the vantage point, but it's
Yeah.
like I think it's going to become it's for me obviously on TTS I set up some of those boards too, and like I don't know if they're perfect, but they're just set up how they're set up, so you click the
Sure.
button and they come out onto the board
Yeah.
and they are what they are. What I feel like I had analysis paralysis trying to set up boards in person to try to make them as balanced as possible, but
Sure. Yeah. No. I get that. I saw you trying to set up, very briefly, a table on
yeah.
TTS, and it's a challenge in an odd way. I think it's harder on TTS than in person. Just that difference of scale and understanding exactly what things are
Yeah.
is a little bit less intuitive, of course. But
Yeah, well,
honestly, as
moving
I've
stuff
been
too.
making my boards in person, it's very, set it up symmetrically, so it's fair and balanced, and then just move like one piece. That's it.
Okay.
There you go.
Now you
I've
guys played
mainly
on
been
like
using the Octarius terrain because that
okay.
works well, and that works for me. Yeah.
You guys played on that one where you had like 2 levels of vantage points too, didn't you?
Yeah, on the live stream, yeah.
The live stream
I
one?
didn't
Did
like
that
that.
come into effect? I haven't had a chance to
No, I
watch
don't.
that
I
yet.
don't like
Okay.
playing on multi. I think there should be 2 levels. I think there should be the ground floor, and there should be the first floor. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Other people have suggested that what you could do to balance that out is just say that anybody with fly or a grappling hook or flip belt, whatever, just cannot go on. Cannot use that ability to go to a higher level.
A multiple level.
But it's
Yeah.
like, well, why play with it then?
Yeah. No, exactly. I think the tough thing is that terrain isn't built for the way that it would be done. Because so a vantage point only has to be 2 inches above, right? One circle.
Mhm.
So you could do like one level at 2 inches and a second level at 4 inches, and then
Yeah.
you've still got multiple levels, right? And that
Sure.
4-inch one isn't impossible for a normal person to get up.
Yeah.
However, no terrain is designed that way.
No.
We'd have to design and 3D print our own terrain for that kind of multiple level stuff, because
Yeah.
all the GW stuff is like what, like 3 and then 5 inches
That's
or something
right.
like
Yeah,
that, and then
yeah.
it gets out of scale and really quick, and then
Yeah.
like that 5-inch one, even a guy with 3 APL would struggle to get up that,
Yep.
so
Yep.
yeah. And then getting down too, right? Getting down, that would cost you like all your movement to get down
Yep.
from something like that in a single turn too. So
Yeah, it's big.
whereas the 4, the 2 and the 4 would potentially work, which is something we can mess around with on TTS.
Yeah,
because we do have the ability to scale things differently. But for in-person tournaments, or just things in general, I think that'll be difficult. And it's just you add a whole nother layer to the game when you add a second vantage point, right? Like
yeah. So I played on a map that had 1, 2, 3, so 4 levels total. So the ground floor and then 3 up. and one of those big bits of building was in someone's deployment zone, not mine. And
Yeah.
it was just, this is a bit. I mean, I get that as soon as he goes to engage, I can shoot him, but it was a bit like, oh, so you have 4 guys that are just a turret up there, raining down hell on me. And this was before we realised that heavy terrain was heavy terrain, and the vantage point didn't counteract that. But equally, every single objective wasn't covered by heavy terrain, so I couldn't do anything. I got shot off the board by like turn 2. I was like, okay.
And that was all in his deployment zone?
There, he managed to deploy on it, yes.
Okay, yeah. So that's, I mean, that's another thing too, right? If you want to add that kind of levels, I feel like you can't have it be in somebody, even if they're the defender, you can't have it be in their deployment zone, multiple levels. Like you can have a single level one and then have like a multiple level one kind of close so you can start to move into it turn 1, but I don't think you can allow people to be set up like that. I mean, that's how the old game was too, right? Like I remember one of my first competitive games, I had a bunch of terrain on my side where I could set up my rail rifles, and then I was playing flayed ones, and they had nothing, and they were just running across the board at me, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was, it was just that kind of setup would not work for a tournament, and it's the same kind of thing.
But these are teething problems that we work out,
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
So it's fine. It's fine. There hasn't been a real tournament of the game yet. And now we already know, don't do that. I think the other thing to consider is what adds to the game. Every game, as a philosophy, should have the fewest amount of things possible. The less the better, always. And then you kind of strip something back to the absolute core, and then you add things onto it, but you stop adding once it stops adding value. And I think that once you are past one level of vantage point, you're not adding value. That's how I would view it. So I don't see much value in a second level of vantage point.
Other than adding frustration, I guess, right?
Yeah, like, sure, yeah. Like if you like to be frustrated, go for it.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is like you're really not getting like it adds another tier, but it just makes it another frustrating thing to deal with more than like a positive thing to the game.
Yeah,
exactly. Is what you're saying.
Matteo asked, what do we think about the new Admech kill team was coming in White Dwarf? That's a good question. So obviously we don't know what the rules are, so we're not talking about that. But how do we feel about rules that, as far as we know, so obviously we don't know what they are, but it's the same number of pages as the Kill Team Octarius guys, and we do believe that it is the full Admech rules coming in White Dwarf. What is your hot take?
I'm excited for new rules to be added. I'm not a huge fan of them being added in White Dwarf. I understand GW's got to do what GW's got to do, and they have a magazine, and that's the best way to support it is with content and get people to buy them. We have seen in the past, like I've linked it before, they did a Warcry update when those new elves, I forget what they're called, the guys, Lumineth, when they got added, they did a PDF, and it was for free on their website. It had all the models, it had everything, it had a new like campaign in it, all kinds of cool stuff, and they added it for free on the website and had a PDF. I assume we'll get it in White Dwarf, and then a year from now or something like that, we'll have an annual that has all the White Dwarf stuff, all the extra stuff, the Octarius team, so you don't need to get the Octarius box to get them, all that kind of stuff packaged together, which, from a business standpoint, like I understand, it's frustrating from a player standpoint because, like, they're trying to do all this stuff to stop people from pirating stuff, right? Fair enough. Okay, I get it. You don't want your content pirated. Okay. I mean, we don't have to have the whole conversation. They're working on stopping people from doing stuff with their IP, right?
Okay.
But then you're gonna introduce a magazine where if I don't buy it the moment it comes out, I have no way of getting that content. So I'm gonna have to go to the internet and find screenshots or pictures, or some website's gonna have to add it to their information for me to have access to it, or I'm gonna have to have a buddy who has it. Whereas if you made it digital, I would buy it. I would throw $3, even if you charged for it. I would throw a few bucks at it if I could have a permanent PDF that if there was an FAQ, you could update it to, because it would be digitally on there. You wouldn't just have to do an FAQ. You could literally go in and change what the text says.
Okay.
I think that would be a lot better. But I'm excited for a new team. We're at the start of a game. I think it's gonna mix things up again already, right? I feel like, how do you feel about the 2 bespoke teams that already exist in the Vet Guard and the Commandos? I really think they're cool. I think they have good options. I think the bespoke secondaries aren't anything that's overpowered. Like, I think that they work fine in mixing them in. Like, I don't think they give them an unfair advantage. And so I assume if the Admech team has the same way, that we'll be in a really good spot.
Okay. Yeah, I was more asking just kind of like about the delivery system of White
Okay,
Dwarf.
yeah.
Yeah. Like because
Yeah.
we don't know what the rules are. It's possible that it will come out and it will suck. And everyone will say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm just going to play Compendium Admech because these are so bad." We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. White Dwarf. When I first heard we were getting White Dwarf rules, I was negative. I didn't like it. Why is that? Because I guess what we got last time was just the most half-assed rules possible, right? It was Cruton, Demons, and Sisters of Silence.
Yeah, I mean
And they were just
they were
like,
not great.
what
They
were
were not
they?
great.
So obviously, I agree with you. If we could get live digital rules, that would always be the best option, right?
Yeah.
Why would we not want that? Yeah, you'd still get a few people complaining, but those people are just going to pirate it anyway, so who cares? We can ignore them.
There you go. Yeah.
A digital delivery system is the best way to deliver it. That said, I also think that, you know what? This is way better. Like, for me personally, I engage with physical rules. I do
Oh, me
not
too.
like reading things off of a screen, so I would also
Same.
want it to be able to be gotten this way. And then you've got to ask, well, which would I rather have? Would I rather have a physical sheet of rules? Or, you know, let's assume it had to be exclusive to physical or digital. I'd rather have it physical because I'm a realist and I know that people are going to pirate it. So if I want it digital, I can get it for free anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Somebody's
to
gonna
be
type it up
entire,
and put
yeah,
it in a PDF or whatever.
it's gonna be on Wahapedia within a month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So
We'll see. You know.
I can get it both
Yeah.
ways. I'm gonna buy it.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm gonna go out and buy the White Dwarf too. The thing is, if they literally told me I could spend the same amount of money it costs for a White Dwarf to buy the PDF, online, I'd do that because I don't need all the other pages of that White Dwarf are worthless to me. I'm not going to read them. I'm not going to, like, some of the models might look cool or whatever pictures, but like I don't need it.
Cut
It's
them
worthless.
out and put them in a
There you go.
binder.
Put them into
And
your
that's going
spiralized
to be
binder.
it.
There you go.
That's right. And then by the end of the year, after my 12 editions of White Dwarf, I will have the annual that they're going to give to us, but I'm still going to buy the annual because they have like one extra page of rules, right?
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
They'll add another team in the annual like they did with Sisters of Battle, right?
That's right.
Just to hook anybody who was not sold on the idea of an annual, or who bought somebody who bought every single box and already has all the rules for all the bespoke teams. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, yeah, that's it is what it is. White Dwarf. Yeah. I mean, as inconvenient as it feels, right? Because I think I'm gonna have to go to like a Warhammer store too. Like I don't know where else to get a White Dwarf. Like you can't just go into a grocery store and get it next to that month's issue of GQ or whatever the heck it is. You know, like it's not gonna be there.
You used to be able to in England, you know.
Oh, I'm sure, because it's popular enough, and that's like where they're from. You could maybe get it at like a corner shop or something like that. But yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen it. No. Even in my local, maybe my local game store growing up had them on like a magazine rack or something like that. But I don't think any of the stores that I currently go to have them. No. I don't think they get it. I mean, that's just old media, right? Like magazines are like, unless
who buys
and that's why
magazines? I don't even know.
Yeah, and the only ones that are still surviving are like Time, GQ, like the big ones, right? The ones that people still sell subscriptions to. Anyone else would have, like any other company would have canned White Dwarf, right? And they would have been like, it's going White Dwarf digital. It doesn't make sense to do it as a magazine.
But
what they've decided to do instead is put valuable content in there. We're literally keeping White Dwarf alive. Like it's because they put that content in there. They're gonna see a spike in their September White Dwarf sales, and they're gonna be like, "We're on track, boys. We're doing it. It's a great magazine. It's a success."
The GW guys are going to be sat there, the analytics team, like, oh wow, they love what we're doing. Let's keep doing it.
And we're like, only those 5 pages or whatever. That's it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? They got me because I got a subscription to White Dwarf because of it. So I feel disappointed in myself, but I need that kill team content, so I have to, right?
How much does a subscription save you money-wise?
Oh, so if you pay for the year, you get 2 issues free, basically. Okay. So I think
those would be the 2 editions that don't have kill team rules.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. So I I think we've all done the maths. Let's assume that we get 1 box every 3 months, which will give us 2 teams in each 3 months, right?
Yeah.
To give us every single faction's rules, they will then also have to put one faction in each edition for the next year. So in a year's time, by that math, we will have every single month we will get a new faction in a White Dwarf, and then every 3 months we will get an additional 2 factions that month in the box.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
That actually tracks numbers wise pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably just go out and buy it each one if I want it, if I need it, you know.
Sense.
Like, even if the Eldar team is super good, I know I'm never going to play Eldar. Sure. Although I think Eldar will be getting an in-box one, because I think they're going to give them new models. Like, of all the teams that need new models.
Yeah. Well, we had that big leak, didn't we? So it looks kind of like we might get Eldar getting new aspect warriors. We might get Chaos getting like new possessed models, and new cultists models. So those two make sense. We don't know what else, but those
now, by
two
new
seem
cultist,
solid.
you just mean Blackstone Fortress cultist reboxed?
I really hope not, because the thing with that team, right, is I know everybody's like, oh yeah, just buy this and that gives you your cultist team, but it doesn't, because cultists cannot take a grenade launcher, which is what one of the weapons is in that box. So
there you go.
Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Good times.
So White Dwarf, we're conflicted. We're both going to buy it, but ultimately that's purely for sentimentality reasons, because we both know that as soon as it's released, someone is going to scan the pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we're going to read it from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty
and also, like, you know, a month afterwards there'll be an FAQ which changes the stuff that we physically have anyway, so it'll be like, you know.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that. All right. Before we get on to our main subject of what are we enjoying playing and why, let's talk about that. So let's assume that we are going to get balance patches. So I don't mean an FAQ errata.
Yeah.
I mean a balance patch. How do you feel about that?
I feel great about it. I think it needs to be done.
Even though it's changing the rules that we have printed out? Because you know that's what everyone is going to say. They're going to come out and say, I can't believe, why did I pay for this core rulebook? Why did I pay for this compendium when you're just going to change the rules on me?
Yeah, and you know what they'd say otherwise? They'd say otherwise if they didn't do it. It's unbalanced and they don't even care about it. There's no support. Why aren't they changing things? Like, it's but you're never going to make everybody happy. Bottom line, I do think that is another reason that, you know, shows just how important having a live digital rulebook would be, like some other games do. And I'd be happy to pay for it. You know what I mean? Or I'd be happy to pay whatever it was for their Warhammer app that they came out with that was like going to have all the, like, if they wanted to do Kill Team on that, you know, I'll pay a $5 monthly subscription or whatever to have it. I'm fine with that. I got no problem there. I do, like you said, like having physical copies of things. It's kind of like the same way with, you know, games nowadays. They're all on Steam or whatever. Like if Steam goes down, like there goes all my, you know, my video game library or whatever it is, you know. If you don't have it downloaded for offline play, like you're just SOL. So stuff like that, but at the same time, for this game, I'd like the idea of it being digital. I like the idea of patches, because I'd rather see the game thrive and see it be more balanced. And if there's something they think they can do, right? Like that's why games like League of Legends, Dota, any of these video games, the popular like big esport games or, you know, competitive games, they are difficult to balance. And that's no different for Kill Team or Warhammer 40K or whatever it is. It's difficult to balance. And it's especially difficult to balance when you continue to add new things, right? Yeah. Oh, we're going to throw in Blackstone Guard to the original Kill Team. Okay, we're going to, you know, which they did do some balance stuff to that, right? They took some wounds off those models. They made it so Gottfried couldn't do fixed bayonets, you know, things like that. But, you know, you look at it, we need that. I want them to continue to support the game. They already have a roadmap for how they're going to add this stuff, whether through White Dwarf or through the new boxes. And I mean, hopefully they've planned, right? In their mind, they've planned all this, and they think that those faction rules are going to be balanced in whatever the game state is, right? You look at the missions, you look at whatever. I hope that GW takes, you know, I don't. Was it this past weekend that the Warhammer World Tournament happened?
No, it's the next one. It's the 18th.
Okay.
Whatever that weekend is, yeah.
That's going to be a big tell too, right? Like, how do they run that tournament? What do they do? Like, will that be kind of a guideline? Are they going to come out with a pack for that? That's like, here's how we want you to play competitive.
There's already a pack. Yep.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. There you go. I got to get a link to that and go check it out. I didn't even know that the pack was already out.
It basically just says play the core mission, like because the critical mission pack is their match
is the
playthrough.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So like I want to see them continue to support it. I want to see FAQs to fix the things that are wrong in the book, which is still mind blowing to me that they can have so many simple things wrong. I don't know who passed through this with a
Yeah, I don't
fine
know.
tooth comb.
Yeah.
They did a bad job. I heard they potentially already got canned, so who
That
knows?
was a loose tooth comb. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to see them do balance patches. If something seems like it's too strong, I'd rather have them deal with it and potentially, at the risk of completely nerf batting that team, right? Like
Yeah.
and making them irrelevant. But then they can come along and do another tweak later, whatever it is. And since it's kill team and it's a little bit smaller teams, and like you said, like we were talking about, like to play custodian guard, you just need to buy a single box of models.
Hmm.
Like maybe you won't feel as bad if that team gets a little bit nerfed, right?
Sure.
Because it's just one box of models. It's not $2,000 worth of a army or whatever. So
No, yeah, okay, right. I was about to jump in and say, what the hell are you talking about?
yeah,
Because have you met nerds online? Like, they are gonna rage so hard if they nerf their faction. But no, compared to 40k, you're exactly right. Like, yeah, it's a very good point. Similar to, so their current competitive game is Warhammer Underworlds, right? Which they do, I believe, do balance patches on. And they
I'm not aware
have
of
a
that,
ban list.
yeah.
They have a ban
Okay.
list for cards. They say, yep, okay, we put this out. Our bad. You cannot use it in competitive play.
Like Magic the Gathering or something like that.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can assume we will get something similar. We don't know to what level. I assume the general philosophy is you should change things as little as possible to balance the game, right? Now, does that mean they will say custodies cannot use Brotherhood of Demigods, or will they say all custodies are 2 less wounds? Right? What are they going to consider as less of an effect? Hard to say. How are you on that note, kind of? How are you finding flamers in the game?
I have not used one.
Okay.
The only ones that I've seen used are Byrnid's been using the Acid Maw upgrade on
okay, yeah, that's
Tyranids,
fair.
right?
That's
Which
fair.
is an effective flamer.
Yeah.
And then I guess Flamer-esque, I played against somebody with scouts, and the shotguns are really good, dude. Hitting on 2s and they're 4/4 damage flat.
Are they torrent?
No, so they don't have the torrent, but they're like Flamer-esque in the fact
you just
that
mean the range. They're
6 inches and 6 inches, and they're two ups to hit instead of their normal 3 ups for scouts and stuff like that. Like,
okay.
Yeah, they don't have torrent, but they're effective. Yeah, torrent. I feel like things like torrent and blast are really more effective in the first turn. Or if somebody like makes a mistake and leaves models together, I think stuff spreads out a little bit more. Like one of the things I've seen somebody do, like with grenades that have blast, is like you do your scout is like a 3-inch move, and then you do a 6-inch move, and then a dash to get within range, and then lob a grenade at somebody's little bubble that they set up in deployment. But yeah, no, I haven't seen flamers played at all. Like an actual legit flamer, like Acid Maw is kind of a flamer. Does Acid Maw even have torrent? I don't know.
I don't. I feel like it might do. I have my book right here.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure if it does.
No, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really make a huge shake either way, does it? But yeah, I have yet to find much good going on with flamers. Don't get me wrong. There are weapons that are good, that are the 6-inch range. Acid Maw has splash 1.
Okay, so that's something.
It's kind of something. I do, having said that, actually, sorry, I have had lots of luck with plasma pistols. Anything plasma is good, even at 6-inch range, right? Like, you one-shot people. And I found that the 6-inch range doesn't really kind of matter, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're going to get some flamer talk next week. Micro mentioned he's got some feelings on flamers. So.
Well, good. Good.
Yeah, no, I haven't played around with them enough. You look at them, like, I understand where their value lies, but because I mean, against low wound things, right? Like if you're going up against like guardsman or Jukari or something like that, that's gonna be, like I said, maybe bunched up early, and you have a guy who can run in and do that and hit on 2s, 2/2 damage, right? You're gonna at least injure a few guys. Maybe not kill anything, but it'll do a significant amount of damage. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to play with it. Like the golden rule that a lot of people are talking about right now with this version is if it was good in last version, it's probably not as great this version, and if it was bad last version, it's probably better this version.
That is
Obviously,
kind
there
of
are
true.
outliers.
Yeah,
There are outliers like Plasma, as you mentioned,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
still strong,
Top
going
tier. Yeah,
strong.
yeah,
But yeah, in general, like they've played around with
yeah.
things in the way that Flamers, which were like the end all be all last version, like super strong,
Well, also
don't have
hits, right?
the
Yeah,
yeah
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Quickly answer some chat there. Will we talk about that yet? No, not yet. So, what is our favorite things in the new game? That's a huge question. Let's answer it,
that
because
is.
why not? We can mention flames again, Michael, no problem. Please, I will get some games in with them so that I can talk about them a little bit more effectively, because right now, I can't. But I am playing a tournament this weekend, so I should get
just
flamed
run
a
all
bit.
Flamers.
Yeah,
There you
right.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really good for you last edition, right? Your Grey Knights.
Yeah, they were top notch. Well, we could talk about Grey Knights.
Yeah, their gunner options are garbage.
Yeah, I'm like,
really bad.
I mean, I haven't actually done the maths, but purely from I like to maximize my CP spending. I want another Stormbolter in that. Like,
yeah, I'd rather have Relentless Stormbolter and Relentless Falchions over anything. Thankfully, I didn't magnetize my models, but they made Falchions the best way to go. So I'm
undecided on Falchions versus just a power weapon, force weapon. I think I think there's play there. But yeah, I don't know why I'm not going to be taking a stave or a Thunderhammer again. So it's fine. Great for me. Or a gunner, obviously.
Before we get too I don't want to pull you off topic, but you were saying, so favorite thing. What's your favorite thing?
I asked you. So yeah.
Oh, you're asking me. All right, I gotta go. Okay,
I can go first.
I would say, just in general, I feel that the game is a lot richer and deeper tactically. Just in the back and forth activations feel of it, right? And the conceal and engage, like just that whole general redesign of how the game plays out, like. And I think the game gets deeper. Like turn 1, everybody's set out. You know where all the models are. You know what their orders are. Okay, cool. Turn 2 and on, oh man, people are changing orders as they activate models. People are activating models in different order, kind of thing. Like maybe you expect him to activate this guy, but then all of a sudden he's got some play with this guy, you know, like that was concealed last turn. Stuff like that. I really, really love that. That's got to be my favorite part of the new edition. Is it's not just, okay, we're starting off, we both use a veteran move, we both do this, okay, I'm gonna up and at him. Like it's not the same expected stuff. It is, every game has been really different. Even playing my own team, the way that I've had to play them or move them around the board or think about my moves has been different. Like it's not just a set game plan.
Sure. Yeah, I think so something that one of my boys in Discord said, and I just instantly agreed with, so I'm going to say I said it really, is that they've designed a game that is better to play than to think about, which is a huge departure for 40k, where I think a lot of people interact with the game purely theoretically. And I think something that a lot of people online have naturally bounced off of this, because it is a streamlined game in the sense that there is less to think about before you're on the board. You know, very deliberately so. So that was their intention. But I think a lot of people don't play Games Workshop games. I think most people online, not most, I think a lot of people online that are very vocal don't actually play the game. Like, okay, this is such an outlier, but it's an amusing story anyway. Some guy in the Facebook Kill Team Discord, once the new thing got released, I think a week before, like when the first pre-release editions were being reviewed, did a picture of his first edition Kill Team starter set, you know, with the Sector Imperialis terrains, and said, "Wow, I didn't even get a chance to play Kill Team, and now they release a new one." It was. You'd think it's satire, right? Like he's knocking it out of the park with that satire, but he was deadly serious. And
I was like, dead serious, and it's just been sitting there for forever.
It's been 3 years. What are you like? Yeah. So anyway, I think that's quite emblematic of how a lot of people engage with Games Workshop games. And Yeah, he didn't get his value out of the models, but I'm sure he thought about that game a lot. Just like a lot of people think about 40k a lot. I think it's hard to make a game of thinking about this new kill team. You can do it. There's stuff to think about. But I think, when you're playing 40k, your plan survives contact with the enemy. You're playing on objectives, and your opponent might have the firepower to take you off of them, or they might not, and that's kind of what you're there to see. But I think very much because in Kill Team you've got the alternate activations, you've got the constant back and forth, you've got that genuine tactical gameplay of, has that model moved there? Okay, have they positioned correctly? Did they have enough move that I can flank them? Because flanking is a huge thing now. I think that in Kill Team, your plan doesn't survive contact with the enemy. And I think that's way more fun. And that's the best way to phrase that. So yeah, that was just me hammering home your point there.
Yeah, I mean, so on that note, like you were talking about Big Hammer, like Warhammer 40k, Bjorn had told me too, like a lot of the top players, they don't so much even play like full practice games. They play like a turn one, like, and that's it. Like they just because like you said, they have a plan and it's all stuff they've done off the board, math hammer, whatever. They set up and they like have like an opening play kind of thing. They play like 1 or 2 turns. They don't play a full game. That's another thing about this edition. You could be down like 6 points turn 2 and you could bring it back. You can bring it back hard. In the old version, it would feel like you were just gone and done and out. And a lot of people would concede. There are games where I've been ahead and then it's only been like a point difference in the end. You really got to play the mission in this one. But yeah, no, to the point that we were making about like one thing, a note on that. How do you feel about list building in this? Because I know some people are like, I think it's one of those things where people are like, oh, like list building, because that's a big part of the playing the game outside of the game is list building, right? And people are like, oh man, they took away my list building. Like, oh, it's just these fire teams. It's so generic now. But so many people barely list built. So many people just played what the team was. Like, okay, Drukhari, I'm going to take one kind of thing, and then I'm going to take a bunch of mandrakes with it. I'm going to take, and the Clavex or whatever. Tau, I know there were people who were playing Crisis, fuck Crisis, but, it's a lot of drones, right? Like, okay, I'm doing this. If you're AdMech, not everybody went Plasma Spam. There were some other models you tossed in there, but, like, Marines too. Like I think Marines had the most options, and I think that's where a lot of the people are upset about is just that Marines got cut down a little bit. Obviously you have the tactical Marine options and you have the Deathwatch options, which open up a lot more of that stuff. But how do you feel about list building? Because I think that is something that people are kind of upset about. But in the reality of it to me is that there is still list building available, but also that I don't necessarily I don't think they took something from us. Like I think the fire team thing adds more value than it actually detracts from the gameplay, in my opinion.
Yeah, so quickly just to say, chat there, Equismall says in their 2017 big community survey results said only 30% of people who have bought models have played a game. So
there you go.
That's great. Let's assume that's true. That sounds that sounds lower than I would have guessed. Yeah. Like that's insane.
No wonder they don't care about fixing the rules. They know that 70% of their cash cow don't even play the game.
That's insane, isn't it? It's anyway, gosh. Whatever. Let's ignore. That's an entire video on its own of us crying about things.
Can we get a link to those stats? Where's that?
I would like to see that.
I would like to know how many people were actually interviewed. Like that is bonkers.
They probably only interviewed the actual dev team, I guess. Yeah, so anyway, sorry, I got completely sidetracked. You asked me a question, and I forgot what it was.
Because I think list building was a big part of...
List building, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, let's think about this. So, first things first, Space Marines.
Yeah.
They lost a huge amount, obviously. And I think that's the biggest one. But, and I'm going to throw this out there to show how biased I am, I didn't like Space Marines in the old edition because it was too complicated. Maybe not complicated, but there were so many options, and there were so many traps, and really, when I looked at the top tier, everybody said, oh yeah, just take Vanguard Vets. Yeah. That was it. And that's what their list building went down to. That was it.
Yeah, reading that stat line for Vanguard Vets was also like...
that was insane.
Like you were doing a test.
Terrible. Yeah,
you were taking a test, like if this, then that, if that, then this, if remove this sword and add a pistol, really remove that pistol and add a sword. Like it was absolutely bonkers.
So with that, but forget about that. Forget about the top tier. That's boring, right? Let's look at the people that were playing the game. Apparently, nobody was. Let's look at the people that were just there for fun. Yeah, okay. You had a lot of bad options, but you could take them, and you could make that narrative fluffy list, and you cannot do that now, and that's true. So we will give them that. You cannot mix in your Reaver and your Intercessor Sergeant and your Blade God Vet, whatever, right?
So hold on, time out. You say narrative and fluffy, but the reality is, if I'm a chapter captain or whatever it is, because I'm bad at lore,
Sure,
and I go, okay, what's best for this? Oh, I'm gonna send a team of Reavers because they're best for the job. I'm not gonna go, hey, Tim the Reaver, hey, Jerry the tactical Marine, hey, Steve the heavy intercessor. Why don't you guys meet up in the lunchroom, drop down in a pod, and take care of business? Like that's just not how it would go either, right? So I understand people liked having their dirty dozen, but that isn't really that lore effective either.
No, but I don't think people care. I think people wanted to make their models.
Fair enough.
And a lot of people will cite that, like, a lot of people didn't like that Elites was an expansion. They wanted Kill Team to be my guys, and they hated Commanders because that wasn't their guy, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these people that don't like something might not like something for lots of different reasons, but because they all ultimately don't like something, you end up as someone that likes something defending about 50 different attacks, and it's like I can't fight you all, but you're all wrong, just to be clear, but for completely different reasons. And so when I block one of your attacks, I don't know why I'm saying block your attack. When I block,
parry. You gotta use the new lingo class.
When I parry one of your successfully retained strikes, then the other guy comes in and says, well, I don't care about that because blah blah blah, and we end up in a losing fight because there are more people online that like to complain than like things. But as we just found out, those aren't people that play the game. So yeah, there you go. No, sorry, right, I keep getting sidetracked. How do I actually think about the new list building? Space Marines lost things. As a result, I now like Space Marines. Because, as I told you, my first team, Infiltrators. My second team, I'm super hyped about making myself a Deathwatch roster. I think Deathwatch still have great weapon options. And they're going to be like, I haven't quite thought it out yet, but they're going to be like a 10-man squad. So I have lots of options. Then I'm going to have some Infiltrators, and then I'm going to have some Reavers. And that's going to be it. That's going to be my 20-man roster. So I'm really excited for that. And that's not something... I never had a Marine team in the last Kill Team. I never wanted to look at 40k Marines. I always thought they were bland and boring. Now, sir, I am the brand new owner of a Space Marine Codex and a Deathwatch Codex for 40k.
There you go.
So that's money in the bank for GW. So.
Yeah.
And all because they changed the way that they decided to approach list building. But let's ignore Marines for a moment because they are very unique, because they have like 10 different data sheets already, which is insane. Yeah, and I don't like, to be clear, like I don't like that. Yeah,
that follows Kill Team 1
does,
design.
Yes.
Give them as much as possible.
But if you're then looking at something else, for example, let's take Heretic Astartes, because they have essentially they have literally 3 ways to build them. That's it, right? That's not particularly complicated. I can totally see how some people are like sad that they've lost their Berserkers from the last edition, right? And because the Berserkers used to be the only thing that was good. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, I can't run my Berserkers now, and I had gotten used to them, and that was how they worked. But it's like, yeah, but your 6-man team's actually kind of good now.
Like, really good, yeah.
I mean, play them, and hey, if you wanted to run 3 of them, who are going to be absolute beatstick melee or ranged, hedge brick houses, then you can also take 8 cultists who are going to be really good at playing that objective, even though, yes, they will die to a stiff glare from across the room. You know?
Yeah.
So, I'm conflicted about list building, but ultimately I prefer it, and for whatever reason, I keep trying to make up excuses for those that don't like it, even though that's not really my job. I guess in reality, though, the big thing is going to become what happens once we have all of our teams. For example, although yes, commandos and veteran guardsmen have much more complicated data sheets, commandos, you're probably just taking the 10 guys, right? Maybe you'll swap out a few for the boys if you want to play around with things,
Yeah,
but
I
I
don't know
don't
about that
think
squig.
the...
The squig and the grot
Oh,
do not seem good to me.
no,
I
fair
don't know if
enough.
you're counting those in the boys, but
I hadn't really, but like, I'm
okay.
not saying there are no options,
Oh yeah.
but you know, I don't. It's not like I've got 10 guys, but I might swap them for another 10 guys and then intermesh those two
Oh yeah, yeah,
teams,
yeah.
right? It's like
You're yeah.
you have your core of 8 guys, and maybe you'll swap 2.
Yeah.
And I don't see anybody playing them any other way. You know.
Yeah, 100%.
I think there's a bit more play with the Krieg, obviously, just because you do have a few more specialists.
Yeah.
And right now, we don't really know what's actually the best loadout for them. And are we going to end up in a similar situation with everybody? Is everybody going to end up where you have 2 realistic ways of running your team? You either take this, 10 specialists, or you take these 8 specialists and these 2 regulars.
Yeah, like you're saying, at some point, once all the bespoke teams are out, like if somebody's playing Drukhari, do you know exactly what they're taking? Like kind of deal.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And we don't know yet.
I mean, that would be a little bit more upsetting. I don't know if that'll be the case. We also don't know, like, will these bespoke teams still have options from the core, like the compendium team, or will they be 100% separate? We don't really know how they're gonna upgrade. Like, are they gonna take the compendium admech and then add more stuff to it, or are they gonna have it be like 100% bespoke, which we'll find out on the 17th, right? 10 days.
Right.
That's like our new countdown for finding that out.
That's where we can kind of start drawing conclusions. At the moment, we're kind of... It's a total guess in the dark. But once we get that 3rd data point, we can start kind of guessing, like, okay, this is probably how all the teams are going to be.
Yeah.
Until we get expansions, because there will be expansions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the rumors I've heard is like we're gonna get everything back, so who knows?
I'd assume so.
How true that is, and what that could mean. Like, I do think, I hope we see things like the rogue trader teams too. Like those teams are like rot for like bespoke, dude. You think about that, the rogue trader team, the Star Striders or whatever. Like they've got a chick with a sword, they've got a comms person, they've got a medic person, they've got a captain person, they've got a dog running around, like that's like a bomb squig kind of thing, like they're 100% built for a bespoke team. So I hope that they get one as well, things like that. I think that'd be really cool. That'd be another white dwarf. Imagine having to buy the rogue trader box or buy the compendium to play that team, and then now in the new edition have to buy a white dwarf to learn how to play that team.
It's really
just had
difficult.
to go everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep on going back to the
no,
white
for
dwarf
sure.
thing.
I'm just
But
I was just thinking of it in my head, just like the bouncing around like that.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, we got to wait for the AdMech thing to come out. And I think there's always going to be people who are mad. But I think everybody so far that I have talked to, that I've played with, even like, after trouncing some of my buddies in person the other night, like they had both kind of come back around. They were done with Kill Team. One of them had moved on to Legion. One of them had moved on to 40K.
Nice.
They were like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
New one was coming out. I played a few games of it, and like after my first or second game, I was still like, I don't know. And then I played like my 3rd, my 4th, my 5th game, and I was like, oh man, I love this. Like I'm really all in, right? And that's kind of, I think, the same way that Bearded was as well, because he was like, I ain't doing this all day, and now he's got content coming out again. He's into it. And so these guys were the same way, and then I went and trounced them, and they were like, oh, I don't know about this, and I was like, no. Like these were learning moments. These are learning moments. So you're learning here. You're figuring it out. It's a lot deeper. It's a lot richer. I love it. Everybody I know who's had issues once they've played it has kind of started to come around. If you're one of those people sitting here watching this who's like on the Facebook or on the Reddit and is like, I'm just going to continue to play Kill Team 1, give the game a chance. If you already have the models, the rules are out there. The rules were out there before the release even, give it a chance, give it a shot. It's really good. And I mean, people are worried about these bespoke teams, worried about the white dwarf. Just play what you enjoy. Play what you're having fun with. Don't worry about I don't think anything is super meta slave, like Warhammer 40K, where it's like you have to get it right. Like I don't expect this AdMech thing to come out and be like the new hotness and everybody's gonna be like, I gotta run AdMech. Like I just don't see that happening. I think it'll help them be more competitive. That's the hope. But I mean, you think they're really strong right now to begin with, right?
They seem totally fine to me. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what? Let's talk about ourselves a little kill team tier list. What do you? No, give me your top three factions from the compendium. Not forget a tier list.
Okay.
What do you think of the
Okay.
top three factions from the compendium, like power wise?
Um. Okay.
And I'll give a
I know.
different three. So
I know Talons are up there. I know
yeah,
Talons are
sure.
up there for sure.
Yep.
Um. I my personal just I'm having fun with them and I think they're strong is the Harlequins.
Yep.
Because I'm really enjoying that. Let me think. So there were a few that like came out early on and people were like, "Oh man, these are the ones." And like one of those was Thousand Suns.
Yeah, I saw a
Um,
lot of people talking about them.
yeah, and I think they're good. I don't know that they're like really really top tier because there's really only like kind of one way to play them at the moment. It feels like it doesn't even feel like their all
They have
marine
one
team is all that
list.
strong. Yeah, like you
Yeah, yeah,
go the three marines and you take the one gunner and you take the icon and you take
yeah.
the sorcerer and then you take a bunch of zangors, which is good.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't think it's as interesting as some of the others. So Talons, Harlequins. Oh, what's my third team? Um, it's tough because I think it depends so much on the pilot too, right? Like I wouldn't have said Gene Stealer Colts until I've seen what Micro's been doing
Sure.
with them, and then I'm like, maybe Gene Stealer Colts. And even originally, I really thought Chaos or
Okay.
Trader, Trader
Heretic
Space Marines
starters.
were really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Let me think. Third team. Third team.
You can just give two if you don't have a strong feeling. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot
Yeah,
that are kind of
yeah.
like tied up there. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like
There's
my
yeah,
experience, I would say elite teams definitely right now. And I haven't.
yeah.
I really want to. I got to get the models built. I really want to play around with the commando team and with the vet guard team. The
Yes.
vet
Yeah.
guard team, dude. Everybody's talking about the long lasts. Everybody's talking about the plasma. Did you see the spotter profile?
Yeah.
Because he's got like a barrage that he
He
can send
does.
in,
Yeah.
and then for 2 AP, so you boost him with a comms, and
Yeah.
then he can shoot with the barrage, and then he can use his boost on the
To
long
yeah.
las or on
Yeah.
the plasma, and just mess stuff up from
Yeah.
from far away and from
For sure.
in concealment too, because his barrage is like silent or whatever. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so there's some I think there's play there. And nobody I think a few people played them when we first cuz those were the rules we got leaked first kind of thing, so
Yeah.
people were messing around with them. But I have not seen anybody playing them like really sitting there and trying to figure it out. And like you said that's a symptom of learning the game, right? Is they're a complicated team with all their different rules and they're a more body team with multiple activations and things. So people haven't really gotten there yet and I think people will. So I think that they could be hot. And I know Biernid liked the Commando team. He played against them and said they have a lot of cool kind of sneaky, stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options. What are you feeling? What's your
My
hotness?
three. Okay, so I think this is so obviously I'm mainly talking about beginners because I think trying to say, oh, this team is going to be the best team
Hmm.
once we all know how to play the game. Because as
Yeah,
you say, right now, the best player is probably going to win because
yeah,
you're gonna have just a huge difference, way more than you ever got in the last edition of Kill Team, because
hmm,
now there isn't that base of knowledge for people to come out and say this is how you play, this is how you get better. You
yeah,
can't fast track anyone to being better. We are all learning, and so people that are learning faster are going to become better quicker, and they're going to leave others in their dust, right?
yeah, hmm,
So right now, I'm sure we could get, a top tier player to play anything and dominate anybody else playing anything. Like genuinely. Because tactics are always going to shine through. However, with that said, I think that for beginner teams, we need to be looking at. So you say Custodes? Yes, definitely. Harlequins, a little bit more finesse.
hmm.
Easy to get shot off the board if you don't know what you're doing, but I think they're one of the
Oh
teams
yeah,
that are indeed a top team. Then I think we also have to look at Gene Stealers, Tyranids, to be clear, Tyranids,
yeah, yeah.
and we have to look at Grey Knights
Oh
because
yeah, Grey Knights is a great starter faction, 100%.
they are the other two factions that have access to something that lets you not be vantage point, right? You can literally stay hidden.
Yeah.
You force the enemy to come to you, but you just sit there. They have to do something.
Also, having
Um,
relentless Stormbolters and relentless Falchions is
that
like is
tends
a
to help.
great learning
Yeah,
learning point. 3
yeah.
APL and you get to reroll all of your dice. Have fun.
Definitely,
Enjoy it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, great consistent damage. On a side note, I think you mentioned earlier that you're mainly looking at like health points of things. I'm mainly looking at armor saves of things.
Okay.
For example, obviously this doesn't exist, but let's say I had the choice of going with a bunch of 5 wound cultists that had a 2-up save versus
Yeah.
double that number of cultists with a 5-up save and double the hit points. I'd go for the guys with the better save. Generally, I'm finding good saves are beating. But anyway, that was completely aside and doesn't exist, purely theoretical. So I suppose if I had to pick a third team, it would then, because this is kind of the whole point of this thread starting, be AdMech. I think they have such good shooting. Like, I have not had a plasma gun not get work done, even plasma pistols, and obviously AdMech get access to more of that. I would say Necrons, because I think they have some of the best shooting in the game thanks to their immortals, but they are slow. If it wasn't for their slow, but obviously that's how they balance. If it wasn't for their slowness, I think they'd be an absolutely top tier team. But
so
they suck.
When you're talking about AdMech in that fashion, are you talking about taking one fire team Rangers, one fire team of the other guys, and just doubling up on plasma and arc rifle, or?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so I agree, right? And that's what I was looking at. And I was like, oh, this is strong. But you can only use the bonus canticle strategic ploy once, right, to make their shooting better once. You can only do that once. Well, yeah, no, they don't necessarily need to. The other thing is, if you get into combat, they don't really have much going on, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like there's no rad thing or whatever on the Vanguard anymore. There's none of that kind of stuff.
Oh.
I think they're cool, and I think you could shoot people, but that's what I hate is that if you go those 2 fire teams, you lose out on one of your tactical ploys because it's an infiltrator only kind of thing. Your strategic ploys, so I don't really feel like you're playing and learning the game. You're just sitting there and trying to shoot with a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And then if they're playing Harlequins or if they're playing Gene Stealers or whatever, then you don't even get to shoot. You're just stuck there.
Yeah, no,
standing there watching the board.
They have a pretty hard counter, but obviously that's because we're still talking about playing lists. We're not talking about playing rosters. And I think that you have to talk about playing rosters in this new edition way more than you had to in the last edition. I've said this before, but in the last edition, I had a take all comers list and I would swap out a gunner. That was it, pretty much. Like, that's how everybody ran their lists. Now, I need a roster, which I hate because I don't like hobby, but I need a 20-man list. Right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot swap out 1 model. You swap out 5 models. You swap out 6 models. You swap out 8. Right? So you need that full roster to actually play a real game. Yes, you can still swap a gunner, but generally, you need a different tool for the job, I would assume. Right? I don't mean like you're swapping a melter for a flamer.
Yeah. And that's what I was talking about too with list building, right? Is like people were so up in arms about it, but most people just ran the same list all the time anyway.
Oh yeah.
Like that list could be a little bit more creative in it essentially, but like as far as options go, you're still kind of at the same place. And then the thing is, those same people who are complaining about list building being less options now were the same people that were mad that somebody took four frag cannons or maxed out plasma or whatever. So it's like you said, you can't make them happy. You block one thing, they come at you. They
come at you from the other side. Yeah, you parry one thing, they strike from the other side. Sorry, Painsborough asks, have you played Necrons? Have you seen Necrons played? I just briefly touched on them without realizing he asked a question about them. So,
let me see.
He just asked, "How do you feel about Necrons?"
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played them personally. I've played against them, and I've seen them played. Their shooting has done some damaging things. We had a guy on the server who plays them in Warhammer 40K who's been playing them.
Nice.
He was really, really hot on them initially. And then I think now that he's learned more about the game and he's seen how other factions play and he's seen the hard counters like the Gene Stealers or the things like that, he's a little bit less hot on them.
Yep.
I don't know, because I think like their melee options, like flayed ones, are just not great. So you're really going to go more Immortals, Warriors, things like that. Maybe the snipers. It depends on the mission and the matchup, because there are some missions and matchups that have just thrown him for a loop. There are other ones where, like I said, when people weren't as sure about playing the game and like, okay, like I saw him, destroy some Harlequin player because the guy didn't use domino fields, and then he used whatever that Tesla electric thing is that blasted, and he like killed like 3 Harlequins turn 1 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so that makes him look super strong.
Yeah.
But then as you learn to play the game and you realize like, okay, I'm not going to leave my guys exposed like that, because the Harlequin player had also lined up all of their guys on the very front of their deployment zone as if it was kill team 1.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, which is just can't do that this version. And that's those punishing moments that I talked about before, where if you're learning the game, you are going to feel like it is absolutely destructive to like you're gonna be like, I can't play this. This is you really gotta sink in and have those moments and
Definitely.
feel just absolutely destroyed to get better at this game. I think so.
No, I completely agree, and I think I'm kind of hoping. So that's a beginner noob mistake, right? That's
Mhm.
people. That's someone not fully understanding the way terrain interacts with orders. Cool, we get it. They learn quickly, or they leave the game, right? Then we get into the other stage, which is where this current Necron player is like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here because now I have great shooting, but I can't shoot you. Like, what do I do? And I'm kind of hoping that we then get to the real phase where we fully understand how to counter things. Now, I'm scared, because I kind of suspect, that that phase is all about the movement, right? It's about flanking. That's how you stop things. It's about the
Yeah.
correct terrain placement and being able to flank things. However, Necrons can't flank things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why because they're so slow, I think they kind of might not work possibly as a team. And it really is the slowness that stops them. It's not their lack of melee skill, it's not their lack of shooting, because they have great shooting. It's how slow they are and how they won't be able to adapt to a team, for example, like Gene Stealers, that can make themselves unable to be shot. And, as you mentioned, their Flay ones are not as good as Gene Stealers. So if they come
Yeah.
up against that hard counter of a team that can just stop them from being shot, they then do not have the melee to counter it. That's my
Yeah.
general view.
They do have the tactic that allows them to move or charge with 3 circle. So you can't do a dash in that turn, but you only have 2 APL anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's not like you could do a move dash shoot anyway. So but if you play that tactic, it does make them a little bit like if you see you're coming up against that thing, I think turn 1 you got to be like, okay, I'm going up against these Gene Stealers, or I'm going up against like Grey Knights or something, or Domino Fields, whatever. I got to pop that CP tactic.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta just expect that they're going to hide from me turn 1. So I gotta give myself 3 circle movement out of the gate turn 1, and potentially do it again turn 2 to get those flanks on.
Sure.
So I think that it does exist that they can. Naturally, yes, they are not as good at that movement and getting around somebody. But depends on what you're going to do, right? If you're dead set on sitting there on your vantage point in your deployment zone playing security tactics or whatever, then yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be tough. But I think, and I mean, that comes with learning the game, right? I started off playing super aggressively, no matter
Yes.
what faction I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
playing, and I got blown off the board with Grey Knights. I got blown up pretty hard
Yep.
with my Death Guard, like, like even some of those games were close, and I won some of them, kind of thing. But I think starting off playing more aggressively is the best way to go. And
Sure.
then you will learn from those mistakes. You will figure out the terrain and the board a lot better and what your models are capable of, push them to their limit, and then you can scale that back. That would be
Yeah.
my best advice for people learning the game. Throw your models out there. You cannot be as attached to them as you were in Kill Team 1.
No.
I have played my 2 tournament games so far with the Harlequins. I've ended the match with 2 and 3 models, I think.
Yep.
So 5 and 6 of my models have been killed over the course of the game. But I've won both my games by like I think 2 points in one of them and like 3 points in the other. Like because I went out early, kept them hidden, but got mission. You really got to play the mission, and then just bounced them in and out and did little things. And then in turns 3 and turn 4, got more engaged in combat,
Sure.
which some people don't like either, right? Like, oh, I brought my big gun, I want to shoot something with it. Okay, well, that's not so much how this new version works. Like you might get a chance at a shot or two, but I've been likening it to Arena, right? Arena turn 1 was a lot about setting up for the rest of the game, right? You were just moving models, getting them on objectives, opening doors, doing things like that. And that's kind of similar to this version where you're setting up on the board. You know where your enemy's at now. Now you have to move your models tactically to get them into positions that are going to help you in later parts of the game. You got to score those mission objectives, get those secondaries, get your models into a position to score your recon or score your security or drop your banner or whatever it is. And that's a lot more about what I think turn 1 and turn 2 are about, more so than, hey, we're going to, come out guns blasting and, yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah, I agree. They're having a discussion in chat there about gene sealers. So
Okay.
Glofu Equismal already answered you. They once you're within 2 inches, they can be shot because the concealer doesn't have an effect once you're that close. And Equismal then says gene sealers can be shot. Unfortunately, the way he says that they should be shot is you lose a model to have them charge you and then you shoot them. So it's like, Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to think about it a little bit more. But okay.
Also, speaking of combat, I mean, combat is deadly. Combat
Combat's. I haven't figured that out
is,
yet. Yeah.
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 I know there's a lot of there's a lot of aspects of change that they made that are super cool,
Hmm.
and I'm trying not to do this thing where I go they should have done this, right? Because I don't think I know well enough.
Sure.
But combat's one of those situations where like, okay, we roll a bunch of dice. As the attacker, I get to put my first attack in. It kind of feels like me for how parry works that you should be able to decide to parry that when I use it as an attack rather than I use it as an attack, it automatically
Oh,
goes
okay.
through. Then you can use one of your dice to parry one of my other dice. Like it kind of seems odd to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like I would think of the way that they wanted combat to feel more real. Like if I'm going to attack, shouldn't you get a chance to
Yeah,
parry? But
yeah.
that's not how it works. So it ends up becoming this really deadly thing where you want to talk about knowledge. You have to know how many wounds they have, what their combat, what their weapon does, how many attack dice they have. Like if you're throwing 5 dice at them and they're throwing 3 dice back at you, there's a good chance you're going to beat them in combat, especially if it's low damage. But like with the Harlequins with 8 wounds, if I'm
Mm,
throwing 5 dice at them and it's a Marine and they're throwing 5 dice back at me and
yeah.
they're doing 6 damage per hit or whatever on a crit with a power weapon,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't want to get in combat with that guy.
No.
And it's especially if they're going to run only in depth as duty end,
Yes.
because that's something that's kind of bonkers right now. You just become I mean, it's
Invincible.
very lore
Yeah,
accurate,
yeah, yeah.
but you become an invincible, unstoppable killing machine
That's
if you
right.
still have an activation left. Oh, you charged into me and fought? Well, fuck you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hit only in depth as duty end, and
Yeah.
now I'm just gonna attack you, and you can try to parry as many of these as possible, but it's not gonna matter. Like I'm chopping you up,
Yeah.
and I'm not dying.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Although to be fair, as Harlequins, you just do the fullback thing, running, crit, fullback.
yeah. I mean,
But yeah,
but
there are
that
ways
has
around
to,
it.
yeah,
Don't know why I'm being so pedantic. I don't care. But yeah, yeah. Like I agree. I agree. There are definitely positives and negatives. I think I hadn't viewed it that way. I know a lot of people had originally thought, oh, so when they hit me, I then decide I parry. I parry their
yeah,
strike. I
yeah, yeah.
haven't really. I haven't thought. I'd never thought about it that way. I guess because I was part of the Squint team right from their first opening of the rulebook on their
Yeah.
like, reveal stream, so I already knew how it worked.
Mhm.
So I've always just known how it worked, kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm okay with it. I think if I had to criticize the melee in one way, it would
Mhm.
be, I guess, 2 things. Firstly, it's too deadly, right?
Oh, it is nuts, dude. You really,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I kind of love it as Harlequins because, like I said, I feel like I'm doing this dance where like I pop in, I take a few shots with my pistol, then I pop out.
Yeah.
Then the next turn I'll try to get into combat. They have that tactic, like you said, where they can hit and then fall back, or they can do if you get a crit, you can crit and then hit with another attack. Like it's called deadly entrance or something like that. You can do a double attack right at the start to like pop some, but you really have to know that you are going to win in that combat.
Yeah.
Like if you're not at least like 75% sure, like on the math and the whatever,
Yeah.
your guy's just gonna die and you're gonna have wasted that charge and that model and just feel bad.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. I think so. Somebody said it in there. Malachi Gallant. I feel like melee was supposed to be a complex web of parry/attack, and it seems like it's just now I hit you because there's no purpose in parrying. And that was kind of what I was gonna say. I almost wish the amount of damage done in melee was much lower, so that there was that back and forth of like, okay, I know that I need 2 fight actions to kill you, and we both have 5 attacks. Let's get into it. Let's really do a back and forth. Right now, it's very, very quick to work out, I will kill you in 2 normal hits. What are you going to do? Right? And I think that's because the damage is a little bit too high in melee. I understand they want it to be deadly, and it is, but it's so deadly that it negates player choice a little bit. However, with that said, I also think super cool. You can't do this in reality, but I think it would be much better if you put like 10-second death clock on deciding how melee works. Like you can't you can't sit there and say, oh well, I see now that if I parry that and then oh no, that's not right, and then you rethink it. I think you should just say, decide now, no takebacks, go. And you have 10 seconds to figure this melee out. I think that would make it much more engaging.
the other thing about that like complicated web, like they said about parry and fight. So I think it would be cool if it's like, okay, you roll all your, because there are situations where like you have like you only hit with 2 dice and I hit with 5,
Yeah,
so
sure.
I can parry initially, and then like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does work out that way, right? Like how it was meant to work, kind of thing.
yeah.
The other thought would be like, okay, we each rolled 5 dice. Let's say I hit with 4, you hit with 3. We line them up how we want to use them, and then like if I chose parry and you chose attack, then those get canceled out. If you chose attack and I
Hmm.
chose attack, we both take damage. That would have been an interesting way to do it. However,
Okay.
that would have been a lot more complicated
Yes.
to figure out in the moment, right?
So
Like
you
there's
mean
already
like
more
a hidden aspect?
yeah, hidden, or
That would be
just like
cool as a
again
concept.
like the
Like,
yeah, as a concept, but that, and then like, okay,
takes
we
so long.
choose what it is,
Yeah.
and if we both chose all parries, then nobody did any damage,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You know, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever it is. But that would be a complicated moment to like figure
Yes.
that out and sort it out. Like, I
Yeah, yeah.
already feel like I'm waiting for somebody on Etsy to make a better version of the tokens, because like the conceal and the even engage kind of thing. Like, I liked having my little dice that did everything
Oh
in the
yeah,
first
sure.
version of the game, and
Okay.
now like there's so many of these little cardboard tokens out on the board. That is
Yeah,
one
yeah.
nice thing about TTS, is I can just copy paste them and drop them and flip them and switch them into engage or conceal.
Sure.
Whereas in person, I'm like, okay, now I got to find a conceal
Go
one. I
get
want
the
this
other
guy to be
one,
concealed
flip
now.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that already adds a little bit of that. So if you did
Sure.
that with combat, where it's like, okay, we have this like, almost like I would think like some kind of dice tray similar to Battleship, the like board game where there's like a
Yes.
wall in
Yeah,
between,
yeah, yeah.
and we slot in each of our dice an attack or
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
parry, and then we drop the wall and we see what happens. Like that would
Yeah.
be awesome,
That'd be really
but that would
fun.
also add so
You're adding
much
like
extra
20
to
minutes per
the
game. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So that's kind of how I wanted it to work. It's
Hmm.
not how it works. I think, like you said, the current combat is like, yeah, it can be extremely deadly, right? Like some of the stronger weapons do like 6 wounds, or some of them do like 7,
Hmm.
and there are things that only have 7 wounds.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but at the same time, that's how that should feel, right? Like just like you said, if you point a plasma pistol at something, that thing's gonna die. If I
Yep.
come up with a power weapon, I'm slicing straight through the butt of your
Yeah.
gun and
If
chopping your head off.
you're
You
if
know.
you're a custode with your huge
Mhm.
guardian spear charging a regular human, yeah, on a
Yeah,
6, you should literally cut him in half.
cut him in half.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I want to happen. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. With a space marine and a space marine fighting each other, like, shouldn't my save have something to do with like your, you do?
I get it.
I, I
Yeah,
don't know,
I get
but
it.
it is what it is. We got the system we got, and I
Yeah.
think people are still figuring it out. But again, it comes down to, yeah, there are situations where you literally just don't want to charge a guy, because even if that's your
Yes.
most
Yeah,
effective
yeah.
way of dealing damage, you would have to, that model's gone to you, kind of thing.
Yes. No, 100%. I mean, in my live stream game, where I was Custodes against Harlequins, we very much did get into that situation because my leader had a storm shield. That is not something anybody wants to charge, because when you're a Harlequin, you know that you're dead in 2 hits no matter what. And I was going
Yeah.
to get 2 hits.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if I just roll 1/6, I can parry half your attacks, right?
Yeah.
With the storm, it's like, yeah, you can't charge me. Like,
Yeah.
you just can't, essentially. So yeah, yeah. But cool, awesome. Did we? Okay, so let's wrap it up with actually getting to the question that I was originally going to ask, I guess.
All right.
So you said you've mentioned that you're liking Harlequins the most at the moment. Like,
Yeah, I think I'm
why?
gonna buy some physical models.
Oh my god, what? No way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of wary, because one, I can't really. We're not doing in-person tournaments and stuff like that here yet in the States.
Mhm.
I got together with some friends and played some games, which was awesome. I was hoping I'd have a friend who owned some Harlequins so I could just borrow them when we play together, but nobody does.
Mhm.
I want to buy them. I want to build them. I want to play them. I like them. I like, again, the 3 APL. They actually, I think, have the highest APL of any team
Okay.
available. With 8 models with 3 APL is 24 APL. I don't think any other team can match that, no matter what you
Right.
put out there. Because even 4 Custodes at 4 APL each is 16, right? So you're still
Mm.
8 APL behind. So I
Yeah.
like the number of activations. I like the infiltration and recon, right? Play a little bit differently. I know some people have been playing them like Killy and stuff, but I just like how they play like this troop that they're supposed to, where they're dancing in and out of things. They have fly, so there have been moments where I can pop a guy over a wall, shoot somebody, and then pop him back behind the wall to hide, kind of thing, and just keep him secure. Like, oh, I'm gonna flip out, pop, flip back, stay safe, and like whittle away at you. They can move on to, buildings and do like the recon activations. They can move up the board and do the, triangulate stuff. They can like heroes advance or whatever it's called, where they spend all 3 of their APL to teleport anywhere on the board. In a lot of cases, you think like, oh man, that's bad. Like, why are you putting yourself in a position? Like, why would you? But okay, I do that, and then the next turn I use interloper or something like that, right, for 1 AP, and I take a guy off the board, but that guy's going to get shut off at some point anyway, and I score 2 CP with him, right? And maybe I save that for turn 3, 4. So turn 3, you don't have as many guys on your back board. I teleport in, and then I spend 1 AP the next turn. And if you have to keep models back there to like defend against that, then they're not up the board messing with my guys in other ways. Like I said, 3 APL is a lot of fun. They're an elite team, but they're also 8 models. They're only 8 wounds, like you said. The 4-up invuln's nice because AP doesn't necessarily mean you're 100% dead. You're still looking for 4-ups. They have a tactic that makes it so you can re-roll one of your defense dice for free if you have to have moved or charged or done something previously with that model. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that makes Harlequins cool. I'm thinking about buying them, but I'm also worried, like, okay, if I buy them and build them now, and then in 2 months their new thing comes out in White Dwarf,
Yeah.
and I've built these models, have I just wasted a bunch of money because, like, oh, the bespoke team's going to be even cooler than the original team, and I'm going to not have them built properly for that? I don't know. I don't think so, because like you look at the bespoke teams, like I know people were able to turn their old orcs into the veteran team. I know,
Okay.
the veteran or the commandos team, the veteran guard, like you can take a
Yeah,
regular
just guard.
Cadian guard
Yeah.
and with the, okay, you got a comms guy, you got a las guy, you got a, whatever, you can
Yeah.
make them into whatever you want to. You slap some binoculars on some guy's belt and he's a spotter all of
Spotter.
a sudden,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% worried of that, but I'm
Okay.
also like a little bit wary of
Yeah.
building anything physically, especially if I'm not going to be playing with it
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the moment. Like I might as well hold off, keep that. Those Harlequin models will always be there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can buy them later on. So, but yeah, I'm really hot on Harlequins right now. I really like
Okay.
them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think, you know what, I feel the same way about hobby. Part of me at first was like, right, time to convert all of my old teams to the new edition rules. Let's see what I need to do. Let's get it all done. But then I was like, well, hold on now. I don't really want to have to hobby twice for one of these teams.
yeah,
So, as we know that every faction is getting their own custom team, do I
yeah,
really want to build one faction and then have something else come out with all new models and have to redo it? No,
yeah,
that sounds horrible.
yeah.
However, from the sounds of it, it might sound like what we're going to get is, every 3 months we get 2 bespoke teams.
hmm
I can paint that. I can paint 2 teams in 3 months, just about. I can handle that.
Oh yeah,
And then we
I
get
can't.
an additional. I struggle, but I can. And then we get an additional team every month, which, from the sounds of it, with AdMech, let's assume they will follow the same model, are going to then use existing models, and that's where it tripped me up, because now potentially I could build a faction, and all of those models would be relevant to this new White Dwarf faction, but maybe they won't. So I don't know. My original plan, I originally thought that every team was going to get bespoke models, in which case the
hmm
hobby side was simple. I just don't do anything. I don't do
Yeah, you
anything
just buy
until
the
they give
teams
me
when
the
they come
models.
out.
Done.
Yeah, yeah.
I was cool with that. Now, not so much. I don't know what they're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 10 days. We got to wait till the 17th and get
Yeah.
that third data point, like you said, right? And figure
Indeed.
out exactly, because, God, I hope that they don't go like, okay, this is how this White Dwarf one's going to go, and then the next one's like some completely off on another
Yeah.
planet,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like hopefully they keep it kind of consistent with what they're going to do. But I imagine once we see what the AdMech thing is, you can surmise from that third
Yep.
data point, like you said, what you're going to be getting in the future. And I mean, there's only so many different ways to build the AdMech guys, right? Like, is it just going to be like, is this bespoke team again? We don't know. Like for AdMech, like, is it just going to be a trans arquebus or whatever it is, the rifle, the long rifle, trans
Yeah. Yeah.
arquebus, right? Is it just going to be that? But it's going to have the same stat line and everything, but he'll have a special rule that allows him
Yep.
to dash with it or something like that and
Yeah.
shoot
Yeah. Yeah.
because he's a cooler model. He's
Exactly.
a named
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
He's XQC 500 XB00102,
That
and he
guy.
can
Yeah.
move and shoot his trans arquebus rifle. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that model's super cool and it seems
Yeah.
relevant in this version, but it's also gigantic
It's
and you
terrible.
can't move it.
Yeah.
So you're going to shoot it one turn,
Yeah.
and then he's either going to get blasted off the board because he can't move and hide,
Yep.
or and it's not even silent, so he can't shoot it from from concealment. Like it's,
Yeah.
super cool model, but you're gonna lose him
No,
100%.
yeah.
Like you just,
If he
yeah,
gets
it's
a
not.
shot off, lucky, but he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Definitely.
exactly. So, are they going to introduce a new version like of that
Yeah.
guy? So it's going to be the same thing. Like I don't have to worry about my hobbying. I just slot him into that point, and he's got some super cool stuff. Or like my plasma guy, they'll have a gunner version that has like some cool rule where
Yeah.
he's got a electric eyeball that lets him reroll ones or something.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what the difference is going to be.
No, we don't
In
know
those
at all.
models, so we
And
just gotta
like,
wait and
it
see.
could be that this is essentially the mixed team. So instead of having a potential Ranger, Vanguard, Infiltrator,
Yeah,
Ruststalker team, instead now you have a fixed 10-man roster or list,
yeah.
and it's all of them as named specialists, and you just pick which one you want.
Yeah.
Or are they going to
Now,
give us their priests now? Are they going to give it?
so that was going to be
I
my
don't
next
think
question.
so. I
Do
don't
you
think
think
so.
do you think that some of these teams are going to get quote unquote
The
elite
elites.
options with their White Dwarf or their bespoke releases, right? Like okay,
Yeah.
like because I mean the veteran guard didn't get a Bolgrin. I don't know
Nope.
if Krieg necessarily lore wise use Bolgrins or anything like that. I don't understand how that works.
Mm,
So like I don't know,
no, neither
like
do I.
the vet guard don't have stormtroopers so to
No.
speak. It's just vet guard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Excuse me. Sorry. I don't expect that they're gonna get priests, but I know some people are like chomping at the bit, hoping for that 17th release that they're gonna see
Yeah.
their blue boys back in there.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing too, right? Okay, so let's say we do get elites in the future.
Mhm.
Elites would be a compendium build off, right? Where like,
Yep.
okay, this is the compendium team. Now they're getting these elite options.
Yep.
So if you have your bespoke team, all of a sudden,
You
well, does the
can't use
bespoke team get the
elites.
elite options or
No.
no?
Yeah.
Do they?
No.
So now oh, I'm so happy with my bespoke team. I'm happy with it. This is what I've been enjoying playing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, elites come out, and you're like, well, now I have to go back to regular compendium,
No. They won't. If they do that at all.
compendium admech to use the priests. Like I can't play my white dwarf admech with the priests. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know how it's going to work out.
If that happens, it's going to be the compendium teams getting lost behind. Let's be honest, right? If they do give us the elite book, it's going to be the individual, like the kill team specific guys that get the elites. Like that's
I would
the
hope
real.
so.
Are the compendium teams getting left behind completely after this? Are they literally just the beginner faction or not? Who knows? Let's quickly answer chat and then we can head off, call it a day. So
Okay.
I try not to go over 2 hours, just because I don't know. I get tired, I guess. Right. I went out and bought a bunch of Space Marine Scouts for the data sheets drop because they look fun. Sure. For sure, I'll probably buy new stuff when I realise what I've already got. Yeah, Scouts, they're an interesting one.
Yeah.
Do you? So I've generally thought that Scouts look solid. I think. Do you have any thoughts on Scouts?
Scouts are very cool, but they are the same way that we were talking about Necrons or these other shooting teams. AdMech is the counter is that Domino Field Harlequins or that Gene Stealers moving up the board, because a lot of their best weapons are those silent snipers, the missile launcher, the heavy bolter, whatever. Those are all heavy. So you're not going to be able to move a lot with your 2 APL. You could move dash, but you're not going to shoot that turn, and then they're getting closer to you next turn to fight you in combat, and you're not super great in combat. So I think they have a place on a roster and on a certain board and matchup. You could use them. But that's the thing too, right? Like we talk about these bespoke teams. When the Marine team comes out, is it just going to be a bunch of vet or not vet? What are they called? The is it the veterans?
Stern Guard
or something like that that have all these options. So like if you want to play scouts, is your only option to play the compendium team, or is it they're going to be like one scout model on the bespoke Space Marine team? Like we don't know. So going out, Marines are especially scary to be buying into right now, right? Because Harlequins, at least I know the bespoke team is going to have Harlequins, right? I'm going to be able to add mech. I know it's going to have Vanguard in this. If you go out and you build like a TAC Marine squad or you build a whatever, the bespoke team might not have those, right? So like is Deathwatch we don't know. Is Deathwatch complete right now? We also don't know if we're gonna get sub factions, right?
I think we could say we're getting sub factions. If we could say anything, I think we could say we're getting sub factions.
I mean, I know there's that little spot down there on the keywords or whatever, but I don't know this point with GW, right? Remember when there was the Wolf Cavalry in the first Kill Team? Like everybody's getting like, oh, I saw Praetorians in the new book. They're in an image, so I know we're gonna get them. Like, well,
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
a Wolf Cavalry in an image in the first Kill
that
Team
is
book, and that
true.
never made it to Kill
That
Team.
is
You know,
true.
I
Yeah,
think they just take cool pictures of stuff and they slap it in there, right? We know that they're not great at editing their books, so I imagine
that
they
is
throw in pictures that aren't relevant to their actual game.
that is possible. I mean, so far, obviously, all of the Marine teams that we've seen in pictures aren't legal. So
There you
was
go.
that from an old version of the game?
There you go.
Or is
Yeah.
that from future rules, much like Mandrakes, Praetorians, and Custodian
Yeah.
Wardens and Alarus? Is that an
Yeah.
old edition, or is that what's coming up? We actually have no idea, right?
We don't know.
Because
GW might not even know, man.
there are so many like errors and weird
Yeah.
I like the new game, but the rulebook's terrible.
Oh, it's organized in a really
yeah,
terrible way too. Yeah.
like there are fundamental rules nowhere near where you need to know them, and it's written as if you already know the rules, right? That's
Yeah.
how I'd state it.
Yeah.
And I think that once you know how to play the game, the rulebook's probably pretty good to then just read through as a solid book, and you would know
Yeah.
everything. But as it is,
Yeah.
it's
Well, the
yeah,
funny thing is, it's bad by GW standards. Is the funny thing too, right? It's like they already have issues with their books in the past,
right.
but this one like takes it to another level. You know, as far as like the organization and the writing and the like, it even goes like. It's like, oh, here's how to start a match play game, and then it goes, oh, but here's a bunch of narrative stuff, and then it goes, but here are the
Right.
missions for match play.
That is the
Like-
thing that annoys me the most, because
Yeah, because people think those are narrative missions
Yeah.
because they're after the narrative, but they're not. They're the match play missions. They're just separated by narrative right in the center
Yeah.
for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
that's because okay, so as beginners to start the game, you know that whole list of how to
Yeah.
start your match. You need that.
Yeah.
Like that's really good. It's a really good checklist of how to
Read
start
out
the
of it,
game.
yeah.
Boom.
I'm gonna
done.
print that out and like
Yes.
laminate it so I have it or whatever right in
But
front
it's
of me. Yeah.
nowhere near where you need it.
Yeah.
It's like what? And
So I gotta flip another 20 pages to get
To
back
find
to
the
the mission is
missions.
that I'm playing. Yeah.
it's insane.
That's
I don't know what they were thinking. And like so many people, and I had this myself, just ask, what does a conceal order do? It's like, well, allow me to show you the 3 places in the book where it tells you, because it tells you a different thing each time. Let's go find them, right? It's like,
my buddy, when I first was teaching him the game, he's like, well, you told me the concealer does that, and this says it's going to change what actions I can do, but then it tells me to go to a different page to find out what those actions are instead of just keeping them. And he's like, this is really dumb. And I was like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you know, the first way that I learned, like, yeah, I'd looked at the PDFs and stuff, but I was taking whoever I was playing's word for it because they had played 3 or 4 games before me. You know what I mean? Like,
You
I
tell
hadn't
me how it
actually read the
works.
rules properly myself. I just said, okay, yeah. And that's why I think some of the rules that I'm learning now, because I have my books and I'm reading them more, I'm like, oh, that's not how that worked. Like, it wasn't 100% broken, but I was learning it the way that somebody taught me, which, you know, that happened. We were getting rules still confused in the third year of Kill Team 1, right? Like, there was still stuff that was kind of somebody asked about the Octarius missions. I think all the Octarius missions are just straight up narrative,
They're
right?
narrative.
Like they even say
yeah,
that.
Yeah. It's a narrative campaign. They all look fun. Like, so let's be clear. I haven't played any narrative, and that's going to be the last thing I come on to because right now I'm just learning the rules in reality. But
absolutely,
it looks like they've put a lot of thought into the campaign, and it basically is Crusade from 40k, which a lot of people seem to like and think is good.
Heck yeah.
But for Kill Team.
Yeah.
So I assume that when I get to it, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, so just sort of throwing it out there again, another little thing, but the Discord server, we do have tournaments going on there. We're going to run there's a small one going on right now. We're going to run a single day one. We're going to try to do, and like everybody plays all their games on the server that day on the 18th of September. So if you want to come by and check that out. People also do random pickup games so you can play and learn the game. But also, once I figure out this narrative thing, with the help of a few people who are really into narrative, we are going to be running a narrative campaign on the Killzone server too. It's not going to be all
you should
competitive.
drop another link in the chat.
Yeah, if you want to come and check that out, if you are interested in the narrative play, because we have the Octarius terrain on TTS, and we have the ability to do that. So and we have people. I want to play it too because I like the idea of that campaign. The rules, like you said, the Crusade from 40k looked way cool because the original version of campaign in Kill Team 1 was not good. Like the stronger, like the more upgraded your models got and experience they got and stuff, it became less viable to use them because they costed like too many more points or whatever it was. Like you didn't get to do the cool stuff. But this one seems really cool. There's items that they added that aren't part of the normal, EP items that like come in. The narrative stuff looks really cool for this game, and I definitely want to try it out and play it. My focus is competitive, and that is what a lot of people on the server are playing, but we are going to run a narrative campaign for fun as well. So
Cool.
yeah.
Lurking Sprog, you asked, is a heap of Sector Mechanicus a bit broken as a terrain choice now? Are you just saying a lot of Sector Mechanicus terrain, or is there actually something from Sector Mechanicus called a heap? Let us know. We'll answer that.
Yeah.
People are arguing about scouts and saying they're weak. Fair enough. I don't know. I think they look decent to me, but
I think every team's at least decent.
You can discipline, and they only get 2 APL. So they're basically not a marine faction. So
yeah, and using only in Death Does Duty End is not nearly as strong on a scout as it is on a marine that's going to fight you or do something like that. Like, oh, okay, I get to survive and then not shoot you with my sniper rifle because you're hidden anyway. Like, it's not. I don't know. It's not that great. They definitely do have issues. But we talked about flamers already, not yet. We haven't really had much experience with them, but we don't think they're super deadly in this version. Super great. Micro's going to talk about that next week, so tune in next week for the flamer talk for sure.
6 doors, 1 as Dan. I definitely didn't say that wrong. What's the look on really needlessly confusing rules/tactics in this edition versus first edition? What's your thoughts on that? I think. Say, oh yeah, okay, go.
Okay, I was gonna say I think the whole circle, square, triangle, whatever thing. I've heard that I guess the big part of that is because they're trying to expand into places that don't use inches and don't have that, and people wouldn't understand. Okay, fair enough. I just ended up using my tape measure more than those little things that came with the game. I don't know if you've been using those little things, but it's frustrating me to have to go circle, circle, circle. I'd rather just do a straight line on my tape measure. That being said, some of the rules they seem more complicated when you read them, but they do the job, and they don't. I don't think there's a lot of room for that gray area like there were in old writing because of the way that they've written them a lot. I don't think there's confusion. One of the things that I'm finding, and you just have to like, I guess, kind of trust your opponent and just go on the, honest, what is it? The good, like, is some of those ones where you have to secretly choose a model, and there's not a good way to do that, really.
Yeah, that's true.
You just kind of maybe write it down on a note card or whatever. Yeah. Even with gear as well, it's kind of difficult to remember which models have which gear. You can write it on TTS, but on an in-person board, it's a little bit more difficult. I know people are doing data cards, which is cool.
Yep.
But yeah, the rules, I don't think they're insanely complicated. I think some of them I had to do a double take and reread them, but now that I know how to play the game better, now that I've played more games, reading those tactics makes a lot more sense. It's more like my brain was not in the new version of Kill Team, so reading those rules, like you said, they were written for somebody who knows how to play the game.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't know how to play the game, then yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll take this tactic because that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I specifically know, oh, okay, I want that one because it's good. I know how to use it.
Yeah, sure.
So play the game. That's my advice. Play the game. Get on TTS or play with your buddies at home. Whatever you can do, play some games because that's you got to learn it. And I think it's easier for somebody who's coming in who never played Kill Team 1. If you're coming in from a Kill Team 1 standpoint, you have to forget as much as you have to learn.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that actually, despite all GW's lingo on Warhammer community, I do genuinely think this is a very well streamlined game. But I think the rules are pretty indecipherable if you're just trying to learn it on your own completely with no outside help. But I think part of that is because they're being really pedantic to make sure that there aren't that many grey areas. But because of that, in proper English as opposed to, this mechanical English thing, you're ending up with things being stated in really weird ways. But once you know the rules, it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I get it. So the whole game is pretty simple, but learn it from somebody else. Learn it in person. Don't read the rulebook. Learn it from videos.
Yeah. And maybe not even videos because people are getting rules wrong in some of those too. But just play the game. You got to play the game. You got to play the game. And that's why I'm saying if you can't play it in person, jump onto the Discord, play it in TTS. TTS is not a bad place to learn it. I still obviously prefer playing in person, but I will admit learning the game in person is a little bit more difficult just because of all the hassle of stuff you have to move around, I will say.
Yeah, so how do shooty factions deal with melee factions full concealing everything and just running up the board? Are vantage points the primary way?
Yes, to some degree.
Yeah.
Their vantage point, there's tactics that allow you to do things cool. Um, yeah, I don't know. I haven't played my Tau yet. I love Tau in first edition. I played them a lot. They were my first faction. I have not played them in the new version. I've watched people play them. I think they have some cool things they can do. But
Hmm.
I think that would be the best example of a full shooty team. Obviously, Necrons are there as well, but Necrons are a little bit tougher
Hmm.
and can dish out a little bit more damage in melee and survive melee, and revive themselves and heal themselves for 2 wounds every turn. Um, yeah, I don't know.
No.
I think you just gotta play games, and it depends on. I don't think there are a lot of factions where that is the case, but it's also you gotta play the mission. The mission is a huge part of it. People are still focused really on killing stuff, and I mean there was that way with even in Kill Team One. There were players who were more focused on the mission objective and like their win condition, and there were people who were just having fun and shooting stuff. So if you want to have fun and shoot stuff, maybe don't play people who are really competitive, because they're gonna do that conceal and hide, and you're gonna feel bad that you can't shoot things.
Hmm.
But like Glass said too, you gotta look at the terrain. You gotta what do you call it? Flank. You gotta
That's the word. That's the
flank
word.
people.
Flank
Yeah,
and wank. Okay, so I
yeah.
think that, as I said earlier, I think that we're in this weird little stage at the moment where you begin the game, um, and you don't even know what concealment really does. So you start, like, your first deployment in a game is just a bunch of your guys on an engage order in the middle of nowhere, and they just die. Then you
Mhm.
realize how useful engage and concealment are, and you start hiding behind things, and it becomes really powerful because suddenly you can't be shot. And I think that soon, once we get more people playing more games in person on TTS wherever, we're going to start seeing how to then counter that properly. I think right now most people are in this little area where an entire melee team, for example, an all Gene Stealers team, seem like an impossible thing to beat for certain factions, and I think that will change once we get to the next stage of, as a community, knowing how to play kill teams.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they clarified the AdMech Sector Mechanicus. Just generally, 5-inch terrain, is that kind of broken? Is that difficult to play? I think that 3-inch terrain is the way to go. I really like 3-inch terrain, as not only does it is it climbable, but also it interacts quite nicely with pistol range. So
Yeah.
even if there is some sort of, if you are within 1 inch of a ladder, it teleports you to the top of the walkway. Even if that exists, it still completely changes how we're going to interact with pistol weapons and flamers, etc. And I think
Hmm.
the climbable thing isn't an issue. I think you can add in a rule that says you can climb this bit for free, right? You can do that.
Yeah.
But I think, well, then suddenly you've nerfed flamers, which, as we've already discussed, neither of us have really found a use for flamers yet. Like, I'd probably rather
Yeah.
take the melter or the plasma or the grenade launcher,
Regular
right?
bolters are just strong now too.
Yeah,
Like if you
yeah, yeah.
like you I mean, yeah, like I'd rather like I said, the Death Guard gunners aren't that good. I'd rather take another regular Marine with a bolter and a knife than go and take well, obviously I'm going to take the plasma over the Belcher anyway, but the heavy
Yeah,
flamer isn't
yeah,
all
of
that
course.
strong, I don't think,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, and that's it. We've caught up with chat. Yeah. So, cool. I think that answers everything. Thank you very much for coming along in school.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
A
man. I
sweet
love
2 hours, six
talking about the
minutes.
game. There you go.
You have a
We did it.
Discord. Everybody should go and check you out there.
Yeah.
You primarily, I probably should have said all this at the beginning instead of letting you introduce yourself. I should actually be a good host. You basically run TTS tournaments. That's your thing. That's what you
Yeah,
enjoy
that's my
doing.
thing. That's my thing right now. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to go to some of these live tournaments and do streaming
Mhm.
from them as well.
Nice. Nice.
I'm hoping to do some stuff like that. We have Data Team. I'm a part of Data Team. That's something we
Yeah.
started on the Command Point server where we were doing ranked games, kind of like if you queue up in a video game and you can build your rank and get up and rank. That's going to be running through the Killzone server as well. You can play your games anywhere, obviously, but
Cool.
we should have had the website up right now, but it's not up just yet. But we're going to have a website where you can register, you can play your games, you can look at your history of games played and how your like win rate against certain factions or against certain players with certain factions. We're hoping to have all that kind of data and have it be really cool, so you can go back and look. We're hoping to allow people to run tournaments through the website as well. kind of like Tournament or these other websites, but have it be specific for Kill Team.
Okay.
We might branch into like Warhammer and other things, we don't know, but yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming on that front as well. You can look for announcements about that on the Discord. But we want to just give people way cooler stats and information about playing Kill Team and give you a chance to rank up. And hopefully we're going to have some kind of way where as you rank up, it'll give you a different role on the Discord server too, so you can
Nice.
flaunt it and be like, oh, look at me, I'm top ranked or whatever it is.
That's
so
very cool.
yeah,
Nice idea.
yeah. If you're a
Who
competitive
are
player.
the data team guys?
Myself, Tim, aka Futter, is his Discord, and we have Fox and we have Witch Doctor are our two data nerd 100% guys. Fox is like the guy who came up with the algorithm and worked on all that. Witch Doctor has been the guy who's been doing all our like website stuff and getting all that back end stuff set up. Great guys, awesome guys. They know the game, they love the game, they love playing it, and they love doing all this kind of stuff. So it's a very small team. We're working on it. They're marked in the Discord as well as data team. That's like their role. So and if you have questions about the system or want to see more, we'll be getting it up. We were supposed to have started the preseason about a week ago, but the website, we had some technical issues, so we're working on that. Hopefully it'll start up. We're going to have a little preseason to get things settled, and then hopefully the plan at the moment is October will be the start of the official ranked season where you can start playing ranked games and have them logged in on the website and be able to track your win-loss rate, your all that kind of stuff. So
final word from Oodsicle, it's hard to get it up. Is that right? Did I get that correctly? Okay. That's one way to go out. You do you, man. All right. Thank you very much.
I don't know if those were my exact words.
They were your exact words, actually. That's why I said them.
I don't know. Did I say it's difficult to get tech stuff working?
It is.
I'm not a technomancer or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know the digital side of it. I'm the face of things. I come up with big ideas and then I find other people to make them a reality.
That is how you make money in this capitalist society. So good job.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna make money off a Kill Team, but
we can hope. We can hope. I mean, as you say, right? Like a competitor to BCP. You can make that actually useful. I think a lot of people would be interested, right? Because nobody says good things about BCP. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that's out there right now is it's kind of if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And we have some cool ideas to add some extra stuff to it. That again, we got some data. We got some nerdy data people who love that kind of information, and I know those people exist in the community too. Who you want to be able to see your win rate, loss rate, what secondaries have worked best for you, all this kind of stuff. That's something we didn't really talk about either. TAC ops, but I think they're good. I like them.
I think TAC ops are a whole section on their own. Like that's such a big topic, and like I can't properly speak to them. I mean, I guess my final thing is a large part of why I do videos is because I want to understand the game, and I force myself to understand the game to make a video.
By talking about it,
I don't know how TAC ops work in a way that I could teach somebody, right? Like,
that's not a good. You don't know how TAC ops work.
No.
Hold on.
We need to have a talk. We need an intervention.
After we end this, jump in. I'll teach you about TAC ops.
Okay, let's do it. And so to understand them, I say, right, I'm sitting down. I'm writing a script so that this makes sense to other people, and therefore it will make sense to me, and so I can make informed decisions in the future. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming along, Oodsicle. It's been another great episode of Vantage Point, a Kill Team podcast.
Hopefully, thanks for having me, and hopefully we'll be able to see you again at an in-person tournament. Let me know how this one goes this weekend. Also, I forgot to mention, I think the Spanish ran a tournament this past weekend, so I think we might have had an official event. I think we might have had an official event. I haven't seen what's going on. You gotta reach out to them, get one of them in on your podcast so they can talk about what's going on there.
That's a good idea, definitely. I will reach out to old John Sal. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Oodsicle. Thank you very much, chat, and thank you very much anybody on my Patreon that has made it to the end of this video or podcast video type thing. More coming, I think. I'm talking to the Strategic Advantage on Thursday, and then Micromancer next Saturday. Right after the AdMech Kill Team rules, hopefully, come out. In which case, you can hear it from the guy that's actually good at playing the game themselves. And do not buy that DD3CP t-shirt anymore because it's no longer relevant. But I will be releasing new merch soon, so...
No, dude, this is retro stuff now. You guys want this. This is retro. This is like retro Kill Team gear, man. Get your retro Kill Team gear at Glass Half Dead Merch.
That's true.
Whatever.com. There you go. Get it. Go get it.
Oh, my merch store is not that advanced. It's like teespring.com slash and then like a random string of numbers. All right.
Yeah, get it, man. This is retro. DD3CP,
Yeah.
7-point drones, man. Look at it. He's got a scarf. This is awesome. Go get it.
What drone doesn't have a scarf? All right, thanks very much, everybody. Thanks very much, Oodsicle. I will see you soon, and Oodsicle will see you in his Discord. Bye.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.